Beyond Bitcoin Hangouts are meant to give everyone a voice, a chance to speak with others who are passionate advocates for expanding the blockchain's use cases out into the world and beyond. Do you have a crypto community you would like to represent and hold open hangouts for? If so, you might find yourself on the path to owning a stake in Beyond Bitcoin. We are looking for people who care about people who want to bring others together, because crypto communities are people. Beyond Bitcoin is a movement of thinkers and doers in the crypto space. And if you feel you are one of them, reach out to beyondbitcoin@gmail.com for more information on how to debut your community's efforts to reach to the stars and beyond. Welcome everybody to another Beyond Bitcoin Hangout. Today is Friday, October 7th, 2016. And today is episode 176. So all of the nerds who come together in this decentralized meetup every week, who are advocating for blockchain technology's use in multiple places in the world, to kind of add a level of transparency to our infrastructure and honesty to the systems that we depend upon, and many other use cases, I'm sure, beyond that we are not quite aware of yet, but we join together every week to try to cover some of these issues and allow the people who are searching around in outer space, trying to find new worlds, allow them to talk about what they are discovering and, how their projects and their spaceships are developing. So this hangout was born because a lot of people cannot travel long distances, or even, somewhat long distances to travel to local meetups. Many of the services that are out there to create meetups and get people together cost the person money who wants to organize the meetup. So this is a very low barrier to entry tool that we offer everybody who wants to create a community and organize events around that community. And all of this is going to touch into cryptocurrencies at some point in time. And all of this was born from the BitShares technology that underlies both BitShares, PeerPlays, Steem, Muse, and potentially a few others here in the future. We'll see if Golos becomes one as well. But, whether you have your own blockchain or your own project that is working with a blockchain or community, or part of a community that's working with a blockchain, it is a very valuable tool for you. So I would urge you to consider utilizing it. If you ever want to run your own hangouts, reach out to me. You can contact me at beyondbitcoin@gmail.com. And with that said, we're going to go ahead and we're going to utilize Steem, which we always do, to start off with the number one upvoted project of the week. And I'm going to go ahead and just make everybody guess who that is. These people are always on here. They're always making sure to provide updates. They are working on something that is going to be a graphene-based product. So we can look forward to another amazing project out there that is using graphene, but actually covering a slightly different demographic. And that is PeerPlays. And they're going to be represented by Data Security Node and Crypto Prometheus, as every week. Feel free to check out their website, www.peerplays.com, or check out their latest updates on Steemit with the username @PeerPlays. Well, I'm sorry that I have to rant sometimes about the beauty of Beyond Bitcoin, because we have to do that to kind of let people know who are listening that they have this tool. Uh, but we appreciate that there are people like you guys who recognize the value of these tools and are utilizing them. So, would you guys go ahead and feel free to step up to the stage?
Absolutely. And just to segue on what you're talking about, I mean, it is kind of surprising to us actually that more people don't take advantage of what is offered here. As you know, in a lot of the crypto projects, it seems that communication ongoing is really lacking. And this is a perfect opportunity for any project out there, not only to stay connected with the general public, but also to get their message out to a wider audience and, stay accountable. And it's just it's really surprising to us that it's not utilized more. So I just wanted to segue that I totally agree that more projects should be taking advantage of this. It just makes good sense, and I think that a lot of the success of PeerPlays has been a result of the ongoing communication medium we've been able to take advantage here beyond Bitcoin.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you guys, all of you who are here, for making it possible too.
I'm going to jump in here real quick and just a couple of quick sentences about this, because one of the things I've noticed over time here is that we've fractured a lot because of the fact that we have Telegram and TeamSpeak and Mumble and all these different platforms for getting communications going, and it fractures the community. So that's one thing that kind of stands in the way of Beyond Bitcoin's widespread adoption, in my particular view.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why, and I don't mean to take this, I'll take this and answer it for like 40 seconds, and then we'll be at 10 minutes in data, and then can start, I guess. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to create the ShareBot, and something where we could actually pass out tokens to, or enable people to pass out tokens to those who are attending different hangouts using not just Mumble, but other services. Because I'm not against other services being used. As a matter of fact, I love the idea of other services being used. But I always have told people, and I'm not joking when I say this. I mean, people who ask for that, ask the people who are doing work for me. Beyond Bitcoin is meant to be BitShares. It's meant to be controlled by the people who are going to build the DAX of the future. And at least a large portion of that needs to go to BitShares in my mind. So I'm trying to just show people the tool, and I see myself as kind of acting in a place where I can protect it. And until we get to the point where we have enough people who are, working on it, and then, I'm the block explorer. But anyway, I'll go ahead and I'll step down from the podium, but I will say thank you guys, because, this meetup is essentially, one of the things that I think is at the core of our history. And I don't think that Bytemaster was flattering us when he said that these hangouts were an inspiration that helped create Steem. So, but thank you guys very much for joining today, and I'll go ahead and I'll let you guys talk then, Data. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fuzzy. Hello, everybody. My name is Jonathan Bahai. I am the president of Bunker Chain Labs. It is the company which is heading up the PeerPlays project. And today, we are in the midst of our testnet. As all of you who have been following know, we've had it public now for the past week and a bit, and there have been some updates throughout the week. Next Monday, we're going to be publishing some of the updates that have been implemented over the past week, and also some of the updates that are coming in today. So this weekend, if you'd like to pop on the testnet and check it out, you certainly can. It might be a little easier if you wait until Monday, and so that we can actually post news about which functions are now available. It's going very well, and we now have a total of 8 developer staff that are working on PeerPlays full-time right now. We have 3 C++ programmers, and we also have 5 JavaScript programmers, all working around the clock on PeerPlays. So this is really exciting. We're very happy with the progress that's being made, And the testnet is certainly being reflected, I guess, in the market because recently it's been climbing ever since it's gone public. So we're very excited about that. And that's pretty much the update I have for today. And if there are any questions, once again, I direct it to Michael. And hope everyone has a great day. Thank you very much.
Do you mind if I sneak in here before Michael talks? I would like to ask you just one question because you spend a lot of time talking to a lot of people who are working in the blockchain space outside of the BitShares ecosystem, right?
Yes.
So lately, what do you see as, like, do you get any responses about working with a graphene chain?
Generally, most people are not familiar with graphene. Everybody is familiar with Ethereum. It appears that given the response that's been seen at recent DevCon too, the Ethereum ecosystem appears to be reaching critical mass. So the interest in developing around the Ethereum blockchain is much higher than that of graphene.
Well, thank you. It'll be interesting because I noticed that there are, Steem has brought a lot of people who are not crypto savvy, and it's very fun to see because it's enabled people to earn cryptocurrency without Bitcoin being the gateway. So it'll be interesting to see how that helps us over time. I was kind of interested to see if that had changed anything, but thank you very much, Data. I want to ask some of these things sometimes just to kind of get an understanding of what people are thinking. It's a little bit different from what Chris Herring is hearing, though. I guess maybe it's because he's in a very like a crypto cafe kind of city,
I should probably preface a little bit of what I just told you. A lot of what what I just said has to do with the Asian markets. Chris is in Europe, so maybe that's a little different. But within the Asian markets, where a lot of the investment is starting to accumulate for blockchain projects, that seems to be where a lot of the interest is. That said, this is only a snapshot in a moment of time. We just recently had Augur that came up, in the markets, and we've got, all kinds of other projects that are being built that are all coming up with their own ICOs. We just saw First Blood, who just came out very recently. So it's all just kind of a moment in time. And when we chose graphene for fundamentals that made sense for a production level environment of this scale. So that none of anything I just said just doesn't change the technological realities of what we're working with. So that's all. So it's a matter of the objectives of projects and what they look to accomplish. So ours has from the very beginning to be a production level operation. That's very different than creating a proof of concept, which has generally been the norm in the crypto space. So that's about all I can say to that. So I wouldn't be too discouraged by the state of affairs currently.
It's interesting because I actually kind of see this as maybe you guys, well, at least to me, whenever I hear Crypto Prometheus in the past kind of say, what graphene chain has offered you guys over Ethereum, I personally see it as a secret weapon that nobody knows about yet. It's like a big bright flaming sword and everybody for some reason doesn't notice that you have it. You know what I mean? Like until they're like, oh my God, this guy's a powerful presence. I don't know why, whenever the graphene chain exists and people are using it, they'll understand it. But to understand the power behind that blockchain and what it enables you guys to do is pretty, I think it's pretty cool. But anyway, sorry about that, Crypto. I wasn't trying to cut you off, but it was something, I know that Jonathan is in a bunker and he has to turn off the whatever makes all the noise, the engines and stuff that are running the the electricity there and stuff, so you have to talk most of the time. But
Oh yeah, that's no problem at all. I actually was going to just answer some questions here. Jonathan pretty much covered the updates for the week. As I mentioned over the last couple of weeks, now that we have been, we've sort of broken through the surface, and we're now rolling out and going to be rolling out on a regular basis updates to the test net. I've kind of decided to switch gears in my updates, meaning rather than give you guys the scoop about what's upcoming, because it's often difficult to coordinate precise sort of dates and times when it comes to programming. I think everyone's probably pretty familiar with that. Something's coming out next week, but it may end up taking 3 weeks. Something that was supposed to take 3 weeks might actually be ready to go tomorrow. And so it's kind of I guess we call it irresponsible to do too much speculation about our own internal schedule in terms of exactly when things are going to roll out, unless they're ready to be pushed and integrated. And so from that standpoint, I'm going to be here at least for the coming weeks. There isn't any immediate updates in terms of changes and new things that are happening. Be more of a sounding board if anyone has questions. I can dive into some topics a little bit, so that's where we're at if anyone has any questions.
So the blockchain is live. That means that people can become witnesses.
No, the test net
like
itself,
test witnesses.
I don't believe so right now. I'm gonna put that question in, Fuzzy. That's a good question.
It's just one that I think that as people start realizing, like you notice how witness races are heating up on Steam, and I think that all these different graphene chains, people are going to really want to be witnesses on them, man. So I was just kind of curious if it was. I guess it's a test net, so probably initially not.
I agree that it would be very beneficial to have a sort of witness training ground, so to speak. Someplace
that
where
would be awesome. That's a great idea.
This is obviously one of the things that as we get closer to launch, we're going to shift into this mode, and there are a lot of people out there who are familiar with this, but of course we want to attract many more, right? I mean, that's the whole. This is the witness. Being a witness is actually at the sort of core is a job opportunity, and someone who gets in and who has a reputation and for being consistent and being not only producing their blocks on time, but making sure that all the updates are done on time and participating and there's going to be potentially some other duties that are going to be more important for witnesses on PeerPlays than they have been in terms of emphasis on bit shares. And so there's going to be a little bit more to it than just what the bit shares and what the Steam witnesses are doing right now.
On that point, Crypto, could you give a quick, I don't want to bog this down into a technical detailed thing, but I noticed there's some differences with Steam as far as witnesses are concerned too. Could you give a quick overview of what you foresee as big differences between what PeerPlays witnesses would have to do versus Steam or bit shares?
Yeah, the very sort of 1,000-foot view is simply the requirement and the of publishing data feeds more often, that hasn't been something that's really been I want to say enforced, but stressed or emphasized enough, in my opinion, on bit shares. And it may be that the witnesses have published enough to get by, so to speak. It's enough that okay, here's where people aren't actually using this, so I'm not going to publish feeds. But publishing feeds is going to be very, very important on PeerPlays because there's a number of different ways in which we're integrating that and using the witnesses as oracles. And so that's the main difference, I would say. In terms of technological differences, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot, at least at the beginning, because it is a clone of the basic graphene toolkit. It's not a clone of Steem, so it's not going to have any of the mining and all the other sort of complexities that Steem has. So I would say if you've been a BitShares witness, it's going to be really a piece of cake.
What about the level of the technology? How much RAM and things of that nature? That's a little more technical than I.
Yeah. But it's a good question.
Yeah, unfortunately I can't comment on that. But if you hop on the HTTPS PeerPlays HTTPS PeerPlays/PeerPlays.chat. That's our Rocket Chat channel, and Dan Notstein's on there. Actually, you know what? Fabian, I don't know if Fabian might be able to answer that question. It's going to be real similar, I believe, to BitShares at launch. So after that, it'll evolve in its own direction, obviously. But yeah, sorry, I can't really answer that though.
That's all right. I had a quick question. With you mentioned witnesses as oracles. Are you able to go into detail what that means? Because I'm baffled.
Well, essentially the basis of it is that witnesses are responsible for publishing data feeds that are used to settle smart contracts. So in this, in the case of BitShares, witnesses are publishing the data feeds of, for example, the relative U.S. dollar to BTS price ratio, and those data feeds are then, the bid assets that are controlled by the committee account are settled based on those, looking at those data feeds that the witnesses are publishing. So they're acting as an intermediary between some information, some data that exists off chain, and getting that data on chain so that it can be used as a reference to settle smart contracts.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's essentially extremely similar. Sorry, here's my question. What's the difference in terms of the witness between PeerPlays and Steem? And if you already said it, I apologize.
Yeah, it's fundamentally there aren't any differences at this stage. And I don't believe there's going to be any fundamental differences when the blockchain launches. Again, as things evolve, of course, we don't know. There could possibly be differences.
Is it fair to say, Crypto, that the one big difference is just the sheer number of different items that the oracles or the witnesses would have to report on and keep track of versus what there is on other chains because they're more limited and focused?
Oh yeah, absolutely, and I think that it's going to be a process of coordination in terms of, obviously, we need to start out with simple things and get the process going so everyone's familiar with it. We want to emphasize the relative robustness of gathering data from many sources so that we can have a lot of the scripts that witnesses run to do certain price feeds now, like everyone's running the same price feed script, or 9 out of 10 of them are running that one. So if something gets screwed up in that, then it's like the whole thing gets screwed up. So we really want the data that we're looking at publishing. There's actually literally dozens, if not hundreds, of APIs in the world that are options. Data streams, data publishing APIs that you can plug into and gather this data. So we want to, we want to create something that's a sort of a little bit of a next level. It's not just going to be, publish occasionally or publish with relative regularity. A handful of price feeds. It's going to be quite a bit eventually.
That's a good point. In BitShares, for example, pretty much, if I'm not mistaken, most everybody uses the same price feed script for the most part. I mean, there's a few differences. Like I run a BTS Tools price feed script, and I know Data Security Node has run that from time to time in the past. I don't know if he still does, but there's a bit I think runs his own. There's a few that run their own, but in general, most of the witnesses that come on board in BitShares have been using Xerox price feed script, and that can be a point of failure. And we've noticed that in BitShares that when a problem arises, oftentimes it affects a lot of different witnesses. So have you addressed that idea in terms of making perhaps an API of some sort for price feed gathering or information gathering from outside sources?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be, the emphasis is going to be on making sure the tools are available, making sure there's multiple options. I mean, all we're talking about doing is writing a script that gathers the information from wherever. And so, what I meant when I said there's literally dozens or hundreds of places you can plug in and get this data. The data, specifically what I'm talking about right now is sports, sports data, data about sporting events, scores, player statistics, things like that. That data is available in dozens of different places, and it's available in dozens of different, I would say hundreds of different places and dozens of different very reliable places. Places like CNN. We'll have an API that you can plug into and gather the latest sports data in various ways. So, so just making sure that they're, and doing that as a part of our development. BitShares has had a lot of voluntary development, and Fabian has been, at the core of all that. So it's not surprising. Yeah, Xerox, right? So it's not surprising that that time and time again we see people that are using the tools that he's developed, because he's just been sort of very very active and selfless in his commitment to making this work for helping everybody bootstrap BitShares from the beginning, and it's. Unfortunately, when there's not a lot of money that's being, focused, or the main development is not focused on the sort of tertiary tools, then those tools are left up to whoever's willing to do it. And in this case, like I mentioned, So the robustness and really the we're going to need to create a much more organized system, and in order to do that, we can't just say, oh well, you guys come up and figure out how you're going to do this. I mean, we can do that to some extent, but if you have the tools available, and you're like, okay, this is how you become a witness. Here's half a dozen different price feeds you can use. Check out all the witnesses now. Look, most of them are running these ones and these ones. Almost nobody's running this one. Well, hey, I want to become a witness. I'm going to run this one. So we got more, robustness in our system.
It seems like there's a lot of statistical or there's an analysis component of price feed scripts that are important. I'd like to hear, if you don't mind, Fabian Xerox, to comment on that and how important that is, and to what degree that can be made easier for people that are trying to come on board and create price feed scripts or other types of information scripts for these witnessing roles.
The price feed script is actually a very basic thing. It doesn't have any real memory. That's something I wanted to fix for quite some time, and it had a database to it, so that you can at least show what have you published, how's the price moving. And for instance, you could make a more sophisticated alert systems. For instance, if some moving average is crossing some threshold, that you don't publish a price, but message the admin so that they can take a look whether this is really authentic and stuff like that. But I currently don't find the time to actually do that.
So you're saying that the price feed scripts are so straightforward that you really don't need a lot of processing, a lot of analysis, statistical analysis or trend analysis in order to do a basic price feed script. It's pretty straightforward of gathering the information from whatever sources, average them, or doing some simple kind of processing, and then presenting that.
Well, the price feed the witnesses are using is grown. It is highly flexible. If you take a look at the configuration stuff, it's really made so that it is, for instance, easy to add new exchanges or price sources, I call them. There's no analysis done at all in the price feed scripts, because the witnesses, all they have to do is to witness a price. They shouldn't do any analysis or anything with the price they see from the network. That's also why the price feed script actually has a subsystem that is called, that I call blame. It stores a file, and from that file you can see that the data that is published by the witness comes from that source, and those sources have published these and these prices. So these files can be used to show that the witnesses have actually done properly as they were, like, depending on the data they got from outside, from Yahoo, Google, whatever, CoinMarketCap, these kind of sources that are used.
It's kind of a notary system, you might say, to say that,
Yeah.
hey, I got this source from this location, and so, hey, I'm just reporting the facts. I'm not adding anything to it. Now, the reason I'm asking these questions is because I have looked at Wycko's code, which publishes price feeds, and it's been a while since I've looked at it, so I could be wrong in the details here, but point is I have seen some averaging kind of code in there, so that's why I'm asking this and how much that's important. I have looked at yours, but even longer ago, so my information about where the state of your code is much further, much older. So at any rate, I have seen some of that kind of averaging thing going on, and I wasn't sure what the necessity of it was, or what the role of that was. So thank you for clarifying that.
There's no averaging in my price feed script. Well,
Yeah,
there is a averaging as to the extent that if you have multiple exchanges delivering a price, you can only produce one price per asset. So there is a depending what the witness actually wants, but there's either a average of the prices for an
The
asset,
sources, the averaging of the
right,
sources.
or a median, or a weighted, a volume
That's
weighted
what I'm thinking of.
average.
So it's only to average out for a particular asset or a particular price feed. You're averaging the different sources, not that you're averaging anything other than that. So that makes sense. Okay, Fuzzy, returning it out from the technical nature back to the Beyond Bitcoin focus.
Well, that's part of Beyond Bitcoin, dude. That's right there what you just did. I don't know if you noticed, but I actually typed it in the chat. This is what I like about when other people talk, because I've been here for long enough that I know a lot, but I'm not stupid enough to think that I know everything. A lot of people here have extremely valuable input that I wouldn't bring to the table. That's why we come to the table and or the potluck and bring what we're good at making. Right? But real quick, Crypto, I was going to ask you just real quick, what are your thoughts on, you were talking about the tertiary work that needs done, that if people don't just kind of pick it up of their own accord, that it probably won't get done. Do you think that some of that stuff gets covered by creating new chains that are trying to do different things? I mean, have you seen that? Like, because I had a hangout with the guys from Golos for Steem, the Steem clone, this week, and it really gets me thinking about precisely this type of topic.
I think I'm going to answer in sort of a roundabout way. At the end of the, looking at it again from sort of a higher viewpoint, things are developed when incentives are aligned, and the alignment of incentives is, in some ways, it's very easy to observe, but very difficult to achieve, right? Oh, somebody's making sounds here. Is that me? Oh, give me a second. Let me turn off my Okay, sorry about that. So I think what we've seen in just the past few years with a lot of these technologies is the focus for it has been on creating these new consensus algorithms and conceptualizing these things at the very, 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 very fundamental level. I mean, that's the symbolism of even using the word graphene in the name of the graphene technology. Those people who have really examined graphene and understand the true power and capabilities of it, graphene is a very fitting name for it, because it's these almost like individual engines within one giant engine, and synchronizing all of the gears to this engine together in a way that matches the other side of it, which is the network and the sort of socioeconomic side, giving putting these tools into the hands of people who are ready and able to understand how to use them, and then to synchronize that with sort of a higher level of synergy, where now we've got numbers of people using these tools in sort of little subsystems, and all of this is plugging into the larger whole, like a theoretical nano machine that's built out of graphene molecules, right? So that's I don't want to speak in too many metaphors,
kind of a cool
but
visualization.
yeah. So it's so that said, answering your question about, I guess just in general, the motivation behind sort of building the tertiary tools, we've had this, a veritable Precambrian explosion the past few years of just not only ideas but technologies, and we're so used to innovating for the future based on what we're building today. I mean, we're the future proofing that goes on in this community is mind-boggling. The ability, couple that with the ability to actually bring things into the present, and we start amassing this pile of tools, right? And these tools are actual, real, legitimate, mechanical. They're mechanisms. They're built on mathematics. They're built on science. They're built on well, I guess in this case it's mostly built on mathematics, right? It's all code. And so now that we're moving into very, very slowly, the embracing of particular consensus algorithms as mechanisms for generating new socioeconomic engines, so to speak. It's not really even sort of individual engines as much as it is, sort of larger meta layer engines. But you can't really differentiate between the two, I think, in the end. But anyway, now that that's
for the end user anyway.
Yeah. Most end users, I've discovered, and we've discovered that most people, even that are programmers and coders and people who are very much into what's going on in various ways, everyone has a certain level of understanding. They're plugging it into sort of their own experience and or their own needs, their own desires, and also just sort of some fundamental drives that everybody has, where it's, you run out of energy quickly if there's not some sort of reciprocation that you're receiving from what you're putting into it, right? So nobody likes to expend a bunch of effort that isn't appreciated, or no one likes to work really hard and not get paid very much. Or, I guess another sort of metaphor would be like casting your pearls at swine or something, right? Maybe an extreme version where you're putting forth your effort, you're putting your heart into it, you really want to change things, but there's no mechanism in place to capture that and to channel it in such a way where it's a feedback loop that everyone, you're recognized proportionally,
a constructive feedback loop.
And very, very much so, and that's so important because one of the things I've commented on in the past is that this is just a personal feeling or opinion, but I believe that there's a lot of people, even in the world now, in this sort of late stage of degeneracy and decay that's happened in a lot of human societies and human relationships, and that people. I would say almost just as much fault in the mechanisms that people are plugging into, and the fact that they sort of bleed their vitality away and channel it into places that is not productive. It's just a constant struggle for people to stay afloat. There's all kinds of examples of
disintermediate all that.
And it just it disperses, and worse than dispersal, it gets channeled into something that they're not even aware that's what they're participating in and contributing to, and in some respects, the biggest metaphor of all is currency, right? And the currencies that are manipulated and controlled and in ways that are still I dare say sort of esoteric to most of the world.
It's obfuscated under layer after layer of opaque secrecy, and even the stuff that is transparent is, they utilize the opaque secrecy elements to such a point where it doesn't matter that there's a lot of transparency in other places because they can hide things and the hubs that connect all the dots in shadows.
So there's a saying by the Egyptian goddess Thoth. It's very ancient. I think it's inscribed on a stone tablet somewhere. Said one of my favorite analogies for this, which is magic is merely method that has not yet been understood.
Yes.
And so if you look back to the early days of even double entry bookkeeping, and how that was actually it was an esoteric understanding. It was the Medicis and the papacy and the first the whole sort of high. Or let's say it was a low renaissance of the Italian banks, and that was all an era where a new technology was being introduced, but it was only possessed by very few people. And to this day now, that is the opacity and the obfuscation that you're speaking of. It's the reality that the method has not yet been understood, and as we're sort of embarking on this cryptocurrency experiments that we're doing, we're getting back into hard science here. We're starting to learn how to use an experiential-based approach to science rather than a dogmatic-based approach, because like it or not, even though science was born out of this beautiful notion and this very a renaissance, the first renaissance, the renaissance we all remember from history, and how that freed us from a dark age in Europe. This renaissance now is a similar phenomenon where we're returning we're turning away from dogma, and we're saying, all right, well, let's get on with the experiments. Let's propose something, and let's test it out. And experiential based science is really, from what I can see, the true way towards gaining more understanding and also ultimately more power over our destiny, both individually, but also we're speaking more collectively now when we're talking about these crypto economic systems. So it's that was a really long branch on a tree that
he said a new renaissance in control over our own value. Would that boil down to kind of what you're talking about?
You just read your own post and said, "Well, fuzzy type."
I had to cut it. I mean, it's so true. All of this is so true.
That's great.
And this is the type of conversation that we have, isn't it? But just so everybody knows, we try to keep it to 30 minutes. So I just want to, I have to be the good moderator, although it is the worst moment probably to do so, because you are on a roll right now, Crypto. The perfect way of describing it is how you're describing it. If for people to understand the actual implications of this technology's use, if we use it for the correct things. And sometimes maybe we should have, hangouts with the theme of what horrible things could be done with blockchain technology. But, you do really cover it pretty succinctly. And it's, I appreciate that. And I will say that before we move on, if there's anybody who wants to follow you guys and keep in contact with you or participate in the test net, can you give them some links to contact you, how to participate or help in any of this?
Yeah. Sorry, I was just looking up the link to the test net here. Can you actually grab that? Do you have that, Fuzzy? And I can rattle off the links here real quick, and maybe we can throw that in the side channel. So we've got a Rocket Chat channel. That's at https://peerplays.chat. We've got a channel in there for the testnet feedback. So that's where we're trying to channel all that information. We talked about witnesses earlier, and that we're going to have that when the time comes. I've been sort of pushing the notion or idea of having some sort of witness training, or at the very least it would be providing the tools necessary for people to. We have a lot of witnesses and a lot of people who are knowledgeable about it already. So I think that's not going to be a real difficult to get people in there who are interested and who want to help the newbies learn how that works. And we'll be sort of bifurcating and splitting things off in there now. There's a handful of good channels though, and as things continue to ramp up, there'll be more to talk about. So and then we've got our we're on Steemit. Our handle is PeerPlays, just the word PeerPlays, and all the major announcements go up on there. We have a news website. www.peerplays.com/news. That's where we'll have our update going up on Monday that tells you a little bit of more information about what's on the latest testnet. And then we're on BitShares Talk and Bitcoin Talk as well. We've got an ongoing thread on there, which is the thread about the project. So. And thank you guys very much. And sorry I did go a little bit over here today, and I apologize. I just sort of felt inspired by Fuzzy's question, and had some ideas I wanted to share. So,
well, it's one of those things, right, where we get together every week, not because we're not passionate about this. That's for damn sure. But thank you I'll tell you guys, thank you for joining up every week. I think that there have been people in the past who have mentioned to me that, PeerPlays is always going to be number one. And I kind of try to tell them, that's not necessarily the case. They're always using, the people that trust them to upvote them. And there's nothing keeping you from reaching out to those people who upvote them, because you see a list of the people who upvote them. All right. So, anybody can get into these hangouts, and especially if they prove that they're trustworthy to people who have a lot of Steem power, and have an incentive to help reward people who are trustworthy. There's a lot of stuff that we can do with that. So I really want to thank everybody for utilizing this tool and helping me also distribute tokens to the people who are transparent. This is kind of a really cool feature of what Beyond Bitcoin is able to offer because of Steem and graphene technology. And we look forward to offering other cool things in the future. And of course, if you have your own projects or cool people that, are under-recognized, make sure that they reach out to these hangouts, because that's what they're here for. That's exactly what they're here for. So anyway, thank you very much. And we will then move on today to Intelliguy. Intelliguy, are you here? Yeah, he's going to be talking today about crypto greed and 653 altcoins. The dark ages of crypto are upon us. Okay, I gotta give it to you, man. That was epic. That was the epic way of saying it. Okay, he's at Intelliguy on Steemit. So he is using this graphene chain, and he is upvoted to number 2 today.
Okay, so my voice is coming out okay?
Perfectly.
Okay, so I wrote a post just yesterday, and previous to that, it's like my last week was showing me the signs that this is actually the writing on the wall that has to be dealt with at some point or another. I have a habit of being like a visionary on what we're about to find in the future. And when I talk about it today, almost everybody looks at me like I'm weird, because it's like, why are you even talking about this? This isn't a concern I have today or tomorrow. But one thing that I noticed is that I was talking to a new user on Steemit, for instance, and she goes, I don't understand why there's SBD, Steem, and Steem Power, which is There's three different things. I'm new to crypto and I don't understand. So I tried to clarify it for her, and saying, well, Steem powers like, having shares in the decentralized blockchain. It's no different than if you bought stock in a company, but there is no company. And I'm articulating it the best I can, but I didn't have the heart to tell her that once you have these things, you have to convert them into a different thing, and then you have to maybe transact them to Bitcoin through an exchange or shapeshift. And then from there, you have to find it seems like it's overcomplicated, but every piece has its own reason for that. So then I went to CoinMarketCap and I looked at it and I'm like, there's 653 different currencies here. Why is there so many? Now, I know why there's so many, and I know how we got here because I've watched it grow. But we're fragmenting things in such a fashion that it's easier to create a new token which is free for developers, than it is to take existing tokens, which aren't half bad, and incorporate them into your solution. And most developers will tell you right off the bat, the reason why we don't do that is, first of all, we have no control over the development of that other coin or that other token. They might cease to exist, they might fork, they might introduce bugs in their code, which would impact our solution. So no, we're just going to make our own token. Excuse me, and I understand that. The problem is that when we're building these tools and these solutions and these applications, we have to keep the user in mind, right? So even though from a developmental aspect, it makes more sense just to create your own token and then see how the market values you, what you end up doing is contributing to the problem where now you're, 654 currency, number 654. So it becomes like a confusing landscape. And then when you get somebody here and says, why is there this many currencies? Now, in the world, we have about 180 recognized currencies by the United Nations. And out of 100, and most of us can't even name 100 or like even 30 of them. We could name like the top 5, right? The US dollar, the euro, and, the UN and all that kind of stuff. You can go on. Why in cryptocurrencies do we have this many? And one of the things that you have to think about is that we're not geographically based. If I'm in Mexico and I'm paying in pesos, for instance, that makes sense in Mexico because that's what everybody's using and that's what everybody takes. But on the internet, it should be a common currency. Now, I'm not suggesting that it be Bitcoin, but what I am suggesting is that maybe if we came out with like a unified currency that is co-developed in such a fashion that everybody contributes to it, and it doesn't start with any value at all. It's more like a Java container, or if you consider XML is a standard, a protocol standard that doesn't care what it carries. It's just a mechanism to transmit data, and it's used all over the place. There's different things like that from a developer aspect that we can consider. Now, I suggested that we're running out of time on this, and I'll explain why. There was a recent report put out by, the United Nations Research Institute for Social Development, and it was written by Brett Scott. And he basically goes down the line of how cryptocurrencies came to be, what their advantages are, what their disadvantages are, and he's bringing this to United Nations. Now, United Nations, on the other hand, is test bedding using blockchain technology in Moldova for their fleet of cars there. And apparently they're using Emmercoin, I think it is, as an example of that. And somebody asked me, so what does this mean? Should we be buying Emmercoin? I'm like, no, they're probably just using that as a test bed, and then soon they will transition to their own blockchain once the concept's proven. So what we end up doing here is we create these tools, these APIs, these proof of concepts, these fork codes. We go through all the testing to show users on what works, what doesn't work, and we do this all. And then you're going to get large corporations, you're going to get the government coming in, and they're going to be able to fill in the blanks where we can't. So the government's going to give people a unified currency, digital currency, to deal with this kind of stuff. And while we're all running around with 653 currencies and confusing all of the new users that flooded into this space, you're going to actually lose out in the long run because you're not going to get mainstream adoption in the way that it's not easy to use. I understand why things are the way they are now. I understand it's new, and I understand that this is an experiment. So I have a little bit more to say on the subject, but I'll just pause here.
Well, I've been kind of working on this one. Like I've been just something in that sense of how to reach those kind of non-crypto users.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, just like he's saying, that there's the one side of people kind of view it as very confusing and scary, and you know that's kind of a big impediment. And the other side is just kind of spendability. So you know, it's great once you get it on, say, like a BitPay card. But I mean, just basically like what he's saying, if nothing else, just something to take kind of that dauntless away when people are looking in. You know, and I don't care which one it is, and then just something as far as easy access.
You know, I would actually ask people who are in touch with June from PeerHub to stop by here occasionally to remind people about what he offers, because the cool thing about PeerHub is that anybody here can offer services. You could actually, I've thought about this. If I had the time, I would do it. But I would go and I would buy cryptocurrencies and I'd sell them on PeerHub for Steem dollars, and I would send them to people, and you know, that's what I would do. If you go to PeerHub and you go see, like, you can buy things right now with Steem backed dollars, and they even have their own store. So I think we're very early in the game on this, but the interesting thing that you're bringing up, Intelliguy, kind of is, you know, and I'm very much on the fence on this, because I see the benefits to both. I see the benefits to a clone if it's going to have intentions, like if there's a developer who intends to actually develop and innovate, and a community that wants to support that developer. If you have those two elements, I'm all for it. But since we're in the wild, wild west of crypto, where, you know, somebody can put up a couple glittery unicorns for marketing and be like, this coin is going to the moon, you know, like have multi-level marketing where it's, you know, that's not referral based, but it's like, it's just disgusting. Some of the stuff that these people do with these coins.
Well,
like,
if
go ahead. Sorry.
Are you there? Oh no, you hit on something where you were talking about a Steem based or an SPD based marketplace, and that's kind of what everybody starts to do with their new token they've created. They're like, well, we're going to make like our own marketplace that takes this token, or we're going to make a marketplace that takes these 5 tokens. So if you're not listed in the 5, then maybe you should make your own marketplace. Or maybe we should have this other marketplace that uses, say, coin payments or the different ones out there that will change the value of this token into that token. It's still just too much for the brain to go through. Now, something that happened really interesting is that there's a new project out that's forking, well, I'm losing my train of thought, Steem it, which is called Golos.
Yeah, Golos. I actually had a hangout with them this week.
Right, and so that they're coming out, and it's like a Russian-based language site saying Russian is a very popular language, which it is, and they're going to continue to use Steem and Steem dollars and stuff like that. And I thought, well, that's good. This is the first time that I'm seeing a forked project use the same currency as the original project.
Wait,
like it's
this is new to me. I'm sorry, because I talked to them and the white paper wasn't out. Did you read their white paper and see that they were using Steem dollars and Steem? Because last time I checked, it was Golos and Golos Power and Golos dollars.
I might be reading an old post, but that's what they were saying initially, is that because they were share dropping on, maybe that's what it was share dropping. But I thought, you know, from what I originally read, is that they said that the Golos and see, if they're creating a new token again, it drives me mad. I can't stand that. Like Scenario is coming out, is coming out, but they have to use AMP, right? So it makes you wonder how how much Steem dollars do I own? How much AMP do I own? How much Golo power do I need to own, right? Every time a new project comes out, do I sell my existing token, move some value over to there? You all have to become day traders. I don't want to be a day trader. I've lost a lot of money day trading because I can't keep track of everything fast. And then what we're asking is that the general public, when we open the gates here and say, hey, come on board, we got a decentralized, this, that, and the other, you got to be a day trader now. And you got to segregate your money and your time and effort into so many different places. And you have to understand the value of it. Because if you have money in Golos and Scenario's got a technical problem and their price is taking a dive, and you have savings in it, then maybe you should be moving more to Steem it. And maybe you should do more here and there, more there. And if you had more of a stable currency, and it doesn't have to be Bitcoin, but if you had something that everything was proportionate value to the greater whole, then all of a sudden, when one particular site's having a technical problem that day or for that week, it doesn't mean that you're going to tank your coins unless you hurry up and sell them before you can buy back in later. All of these type of competing technologies encourage people to be day traders. Now, before I go, I'm going to give you this one other thing to talk about here. Hold on.
Sure.
In this United Nations social report that came out by somebody named Brett Scott, he wrote 3 key sentences in here that really stood out at me. He said, the question is how to build decentralized governance systems that give people true voice in decentralized technology. In much open source philosophy, it is uncritically assumed that everyone has equal power, despite the fact that certain individuals, often those with technical skills or capital dominant ability, apparently they dominate these projects. So either you're a great developer and you get a huge voice in the development because you can either contribute code or you can help fork it or you can do this, or you have a lot of money and you buy into these things. And if you're somewhere neither of those, you kind of ride with whatever those two people are doing. So he says one of the problems with this is, while the technology is enthusiastic and experimental, it is still prone to elitist, tech-centric outlook of disruptive technology in the startup culture. So, we have to think about the greater picture from outside the box sometimes, because we're all in the box. And we're all doing things, and it's great to us that it takes years to understand and to get to where we are now. So I'm going to open the floor up again, and maybe somebody can hit me up with some hard questions.
One thing that I'm noticing from what you're saying here, first of all, I have a great affinity with what you're saying, and I agree with you. But what it's going to require in the hard part of this task, and we've brought this up within Genesis as well, is just the whole idea of getting people to form a consensus. I mean, we have to band together. We have to take this cryptocurrency project and this other cryptocurrency project and get them to see the synergy between them and be willing to cooperate. That's what this Beyond Bitcoin is all about, is to get people to cooperate. But that is extremely difficult to do. And so that's the hard thing of this whole thing right here, is to get people to see the value in what everybody else is doing and create a common thread of effort between us all, because that's the only way we're going to solve this problem.
I believe Chica says we need an easy coin, and I just say I think Doge, that was the one thing that made things that made it valuable, was that it had a dang dog on it, so everybody wasn't afraid of it. You know what I mean?
It wasn't easy, though, because it's not related to the U.S. dollar, and so the amounts when you're buying or selling something are foreign to people. So I think the Steem dollar is potentially the easy coin, but the proliferation, not just of coins, but say of social media channels, of everything in technology, is really overwhelming to the individual. And I believe the solution is to encourage and to gamify and to make it easy for a new person to come in and immediately part of a team of 7 or 8, and with some AI also, some synthetic intelligence, and that team can be group managing, flipping around currencies for savings, and the AI, or not the AI, but the synthetic intelligence, the combination of human and algorithms, can be something that allows people to manage all their passwords, to not have to join another site or another movement, but join one last one that takes care of all this complexity. And you can build your reputation by being part of a small team. Small teams are we had hunting parties, not just tribes, back in the million years before the 10,000 years of civilization. And that to me was a greater intelligence than any individual. And that's what we need to encourage to solve this problem.
I fully agree with you there. And one thing that one problem that we have is that we do need to talk about this a little bit more. I couldn't believe the amount of controversy I caused just by bringing this up, saying, is this a topic that we should be considering? And people are coming in saying, listen, the decentralized space isn't a particular thing, it's a metamorphic thing that's growing in every direction, and no one is ever going to be able to hit a brick wall because it's all over the place. Well, what he basically said is, that is hitting a brick wall. It is all over the place, and that's what's causing the problem is that there's no clear path for anybody that shows up here. And so once you look at the overall puzzle from the outside of it, it's pretty daunting and scary. And so I think what's going to happen is that unbeknownst to all of us, as I mentioned before, the large banks, the United Nations, large corporations, they're going to design a system that makes sense, that interoperates with existing banks. Now, BlockPay is doing some good stuff, by the way. I got to give a shout out to KenCode there, because when you're taking multiple currencies and funneling, and you're funneling into a certain POS terminal like that, and then you make it easy. I mean, he's taking an existing problem that I'm talking about and trying to simplify it, which is great. But what I would like to see is more. Yeah, and I would like to see more. Like, people don't like foundations, right? They don't like centralized governance models. But even in a decentralized space, and it's hard to talk about mainstream concepts in a decentralized space. But like, for instance, you'll have competing insurance brokers out in the public, yet they come out with the insurance brokers or something like that, where they all come up with a common standard, right? And I don't like those type of things, but there's a reason for it, right? So that certain things are standardized in industry. Even with internet, we have request for comments, which become the new standard after they're discussed, and they become RFCs, if you know what those are. And that's where you take a lot of people on the email would be terrible and gross if I couldn't just email you without a standard of SMTP protocol, which would explain that these are the standard messages. Because I'd be like, oh, you want to send me an email? Download this client, and now you can send me an email. And that would be bizarre. So we had to come out with that for the internet very quickly. Now that's the internet. And why? Because the internet is a global place. We don't need separate marketplaces for every separate coin. We don't need to have a new token for every time we have a new application. We need to come out with some sort of standard that we can all contribute to, discuss, not make money from, until you build your own little piece on this that works off of it. Yeah. So this open easy coin or fair coin or whatever it is, it should hold no inherent value. But it should have contributions from different people. Almost like, you have ISO in the manufacturing thing, ISO certified. There should be something that we're probably either going to see it, or we're just going to have just a bunch of fragmented coins that have a small following by techno geeks that has nothing to do with mainstream adoption. And that's sad, because go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I think you've made some really great analogies in terms of how technology has evolved, and this is a technology game that we're playing here with this cryptocurrency. It's also social, but point I'm making here is that if you look at how TCP evolved and how other technologies evolved, they didn't just autocratically. Some leader at the top just didn't say, "Hey, we're going to just unify all these different disparaging protocols on the internet and whatever, and create another one that will unify everything." This evolved over periods of time that took a lot of competing interests to finally wiggle their way out for the standards to emerge. So I think it's natural for it to take more time than we probably want it to take, and because we recognize how urgent this problem is. So we want it to happen right away, and we want to see the leadership that will pull these disparaging interests together to create this great standard that we can all live by and make it simple for everyone. But unfortunately, if you look at the evolution of things in the past, it doesn't happen quickly. It takes a long time for these competing interests to battle with each other and figure out which is the best. And of course, politics plays a role in that as well. So it's never like, look at beta technology and VHS technology, it wasn't the best technology that won. There was a lot of politics involved. And so to expect that that's not going to happen here is unrealistic, but it is sad, because I really would like to see what you're talking about come to fruition much faster than I think it's going to.
And with that being said, I'll tell you something very important. Look at what we're talking about. We're talking about monetary systems. That's what cryptocurrency is. It's monetary systems. Monetary systems are dominated by governments and banks. So you're playing with their fire. So how much time do you think you have to be able to build something that has a standard that is against mainstream adoption, which you need mainstream adoption for monetary systems to actually have any real value? Otherwise, we're going to be trading Bitcoin like in a gaming system like World of Warcraft, and that's the value of what Bitcoin is going to be in the long term, because they're going to come out with their own monetary systems that are digital currency, that are simple, they're easy, they're regulated, they're legal, and they're going to outlaw, and you're going to be like, so they can outlaw decentralized systems. Big deal. You can't stop a decentralized system. No, you can't, but you can make it really, really taboo that when you talk about it, they're going to tell you that, just decentralized Bitcoin, go put on your tinfoil hat and use some of that Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right about that progression. If we can't get our act together, I think you're exactly spot on with how that will progress, because you know darn well that these guys aren't sitting back there being blindsided by what we're doing here. They're very well aware, and they're engaging. They're finally seeing the value in it and how it's going to benefit them and how they can control it if they roll it out. And so you're absolutely right that this is how it's going to happen if we can't get our shit together.
I've always been a very big proponent for education, and my approach has always been more from that standpoint, as attempting to there's a lot of willingness. There's the millennial generation especially is really, I think, who are going to drive this, and who are already driving this, whether they know it or not. Their demographic, if I want to put it in a sort of sterile term, who is going to be the sort of veil, or the fulcrum point in which everything shifts. And
education.
Getting them, here's something that we just, we're talking about yesterday. One of the key innovations that Steem has brought to the table in the socioeconomic space, it's a technology, but it's also been shown to prove as an effective socioeconomic, tool or incentive. It's opened up doorways. Is the reality that people get these tokens of value in their wallet through a gateway, so to speak, and I use that term broadly, but through a mechanism that does not involve intentionally having to go through the barriers to entry of going through Coinbase, and then through Bitcoin, and then through an exchange, and then you've got your token. They're doing something different, and they're receiving tokens. And because these tokens have value, now they're like, well, shit, how do I get this? How do I get this Steem dollar into my wallet, And so my wallet in my back pocket, so I can go buy a cheeseburger. And And that's what it's a reverse engineering of the process. And in this process, we've got people that, I mean, let's face it, we've got a lot of women that are using Steem. Like I give huge props to Ned and Dan Larimer, who have, so far that I can tell, been single-handedly the most influential at bringing more women into crypto. And so these are we're rolling back the curtain on something that's very, 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 very intense and bright. And we can't just sort of rip the Band-Aid off or take the blindfold off very quickly, because we've been in the dark for arguably maybe millennia, or who knows. I'm branching into metaphor territory again here, but the point is that what Tom spoke of, particularly relating it to past trends of how technologies emerge, there's always this sort of forging in the volcano phase, where everyone is aware of the need in a very sort of subconscious way almost. Everyone knows that there are problems that need to be solved, and more people are becoming aware of it every day, which adds to the intensity of the desire. Sort of not just the desire for each one of us to figure out a way that we can fit into it, but the desire coming from everyone simultaneously that we need changes, and we need them soon, because we can no longer do the things that we've been doing and expect to really to survive. And because of that, that's adding, I think, to a sort of, we'll call it a perceived sort of temporal anomaly, where the urgency is being perceived as time is running out. And that is one way that it can be sort of stated, I guess, or looked at. But another way that I think is an interesting way to think about it, or to approach it, is that time and focus are very very closely interrelated. And maybe not focus, but discipline might be a better word to describe it. We sort of, through discipline, we have the ability to structure time in a way, I guess, is how I would describe it. And what I mean by that is discipline is the capability of organizing, not just individually, but with each other. And this capability of organizing is the foundation of all civilization. And so we're really creating new tools to create a new foundation for a new civilization. And I say that with the least hint of new age irony or anything along that. I mean, this is an observational conclusion that I've come to.
Yeah, but what exactly? Like you're kind of narrating things, which don't mean to cut you off. You're narrating things. What is your anticipation of what can be done, or how soon we have? Because I'm arguably saying it has to be done right away, because time is running out. As far as I'm talking within the next year or two. I mean, if you consider all the banks united together and all the large governments united together, they can build and roll out something with exactly all the open source that they see right now. It's probably already in development that we don't know. So I don't think we have a lot of time for this, because this is a little different. This problem is, I'll explain it. Let's say that we're back in the automotive industry days. Everybody's building a new car, right? And then Ethereum's got its own car, and Bitcoin has its own car and stuff. The problem is that the wheelbase has no standard. So we have really large cars that eat both lanes, and we have smaller cars that can't even be seen in your blind spot, right? The floats that you would see at Burning Man, okay, those wild and crazy floats. Everybody's like, this is going to be what the new family car is going to be. Some of them are gigantic. Some of them have their headlights on the front. Some of them put their headlights on the back, and you're like, why are you putting your headlights on the back? And they're like, well, I have night vision in our drivers' windshields, so we don't need them actually in the front. Like, it's so chaotic out there, and it's so nutty. And you drive down these virtual roads, which don't have any set lines painted anywhere or nothing, and you see carnage at the side of the roads. You see dead bodies, and these aren't deer. These are humans. These are investors. These are developers, and it's becoming like a landmine right now. If you look for it, And we don't have time for this. So go ahead, Crypto Prometheus. Take us from the point of everybody's got a different vehicle. There's carnage everywhere. The governments, the banks are watching this happen. They know that this affects them. How much time do you think we have?
I think we're in a critical phase right now. I think the next 3 years are going to change history, but that's just arbitrary and doesn't mean anything. I think that what you just described is a wonderful picture that I have the last time I was at Burning Man, driving through the desert and watching all of the crazy circus everywhere. Unfortunately, yes, the carnage is real that we're experiencing now. There's human beings that are suffering. There is, people financially that are trying to, people getting ripped off. I got to be honest with you, and this is maybe some really brutal honesty. Some of the reason why I narrate sometimes rather than giving you the answer is because I don't have the answer any more than any of us do. You tend
to tell people that, I think, whenever you are in a situation where you don't know the answer. I've never really heard you come across and say, yeah, I know what I'm talking about exactly on this. I mean, just like you just said, it's arbitrary, the 3 years that you think, because who knows, right? I mean, sure, we always have like a guess, and we have this feeling in the pit of our stomach right now that so much change is changing, and we're at at that cusp where the roller coaster is about to go over, but it's like, when is that? A second on this roller coaster can be a year, 2 years. It can be 10 years.
I think one of my approaches has always been, and I see this overlay approach in many, many people that I speak to in this space, is that we start with the reality that we know somewhere deep down inside that we have the power to bring our ideals into the world, right? Like, we want to see, and maybe not, utopia and all, but everyone has different ideals, right? Like, everyone has sort of
what we would love the world to be.
Yeah, and some of them are sort of, the boundaries aren't very defined, and some of them people have very specific, and all of them, however, are sort of, just building on our own understanding. But here's the thing: is that I call it, a top stack solution. This is a good metaphor, and hopefully I'll leave it at this, because I don't want to, take up too much more time. But when we're looking at a lot of the actual technologies that we're building with PeerPlays, and we're designing them with business, strategy in mind. And I talk about this business strategy from our own, internal point of view, but also strategy from a standpoint of, are we building something that is going to serve an immediate need? And if so, then are we also building that so that it's scalable, so that we have a longer term solution that backs that up, and it's not just something that we're going to lap up some sort of latent sideways motion by getting ourselves a piece of something that may be a temporary manifest need right now. So we're simultaneously working through the reality that a lot of these solutions are going to be the end result of what all of this is accomplishing, but we can't start with the end result. All of us had, a couple of years ago when this began, this sort of burst of inspiration of all the things that can be done with blockchain technology. But here's the thing: we all are coming off of, let's say, 25 or 30 solid years of, really seeing and understanding what technology does with computers individually, networks of computers, and the internet, right?
Hold on.
And so let me just finish. Sorry, give me about 15
real quick,
seconds.
Guys, I'm going to have to just let you guys know that we've passed the 5-minute mark that I messaged everybody about 5 minutes ago.
Well, the stack is what I was talking about. It's simply that a lot of the solutions we're thinking of and we're talking of right now is we're trying to get to the end result, but the end result is sort of coming out of all of the intermediate solutions as they clash against each other and they forge, it's kind of like any experiment that you do, right? You actually have to do the experiment and observe the results before you can really figure out what the design of the next phase of it. And so we've been doing that. A lot of this has been experience. We've been observing the interactions that have come out of these experiments, and we've taken those and we've harnessed them and we've designed new experiments. And there's a lot of people in the space that are working in that way. They've had a lot of experience, and it's a tough experiment because guess what? We're tied up economically in it too, which means people are putting their money forward and they're putting their sort of life's blood and juice into things, and they're also the subject of experiments. They're losing huge amounts of money, pumps and dumps and scams and everything else. So it's tough.
Can we all agree on one thing real quick?
As the speaker who's going to...
Oh, go ahead, Intelliguy.
As a speaker, I'm just going to I'm pushing to talk right now, and then I'm going to turn it off so that we can move on to everybody else. But since this was my time slot, I'm going to end it with two things. First of all, on Steemit, I'm Intelliguy. And the second thing is that when it comes to things like this, I almost want to come up with a new campaign which says users first. Because, yes, we can narrate the reasons why. But at the end of the day, it's users first. And we can explain why we have to do the things that we're doing and clarify it. And, none of that matters. It matters to us. And we know why we're doing it as developers. But as developers and creators of this space, or any space, when you're delivering an end product to the users, you always have to maintain in your mindset and in the way that you do things, it's users first. And even if you can't technically, handle that or give to them or do something like that, you have to pause midway through development and go, let's consider the users first concept. Are we meeting our goals long-term on the users first? Or is there anything we can do today to make it easier for users first? So this should be like a new coin-op term that we always maintain and have more discussions first. And so when we look at a new technology or we look at the progress of a new development, users first is how are we meeting our goals on that so far? And that's it. That's the last thing I wanted to say.
That's
I
a
appreciate
great,
it, guys.
Yeah, that was good, and that totally ties in with the reality of observed scientific method in marketing, right? So rather than building what your hunch is or what you think the world needs, you have to look very, very clearly at what it is that the world needs from a sort of data-based approach, research-based marketing, and then build it to serve the user. So I totally agree with you, Intelliguy, and everything you talked about today was very, very good perspective, and one I think is very much needed. So thank you very much.
Well, definitely.
You're very welcome.
You for joining
and
us.
I hope I will do some more shows about this subject.
Looking forward to that.
Obviously, as you can see, you got a conversation going. So, I mean, we could definitely go longer on any of these every week. It seems like I feel bad cutting people off because, honestly, if I had some help editing, I might not cut people off anymore at some point in time. So this is a good time to plug that if anybody wants to ever help out with around here and get upvotes and help for helping out that in that way we can scale these to make it so Intelliguy and this conversation can go on for its own hangout. But these are the types of discussions that we need to have. I don't know if everybody here agrees or disagrees with Intelliguy, but I do know that there's some very valid points made that we have to kind of think about it as an industry and as a movement and a community that backs that movement. So thank you, Intelliguy, for bringing it to us. All right.
As one of the leaders of... Go ahead, Fuzzy. I didn't mean to cut you off. Well, I was going to say, I don't know if this makes sense or not because I don't want to extend and disrupt the schedule here, but I'd like to see Stan weigh in on this subject maybe in another conversation because as one of the leaders of a major cryptocurrency project, I think he has a lot to say about this.
Well, we have about, let me see here. We've got 1, 2, 3. We've got 5 projects today. If everybody's cool with it, if Stan wants to say something, we can probably let him speak up real quick.
Well, I'll just simply say is I've been giving a lot of thought to this, and I'll write something up and post it next to the original post on the subject.
Awesome.
I'll be looking for that. Thanks, Stan.
Okay, well, next in line is going to be Good Karma. Are you there, Good Karma? There he is.
Yes, I'm here.
Yep, and you're going to be covering some updates for eSteem, right? Which is the Steam mobile, Android, and iOS application.
Yes. Yeah, last few days there was new updates for both Android and iOS, and that included some of the changes in profile pages where you can upload your cover photos, and as well as as usual you had already a profile picture, so it gives user more kind of better user experience. In a sense, they have more control over their profile. They can see more details and some redesigning on the profile page. So yeah, some of the cool features.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to ask you was, is there a way, because the problem that I run into with my phone is that it seems like I have to log in every time, right?
Yes.
And whenever I have to log in every time, I have this extremely long key, right? And I have a way that I store it, but I store it, like I get it out when I need it. I have my posting key saved, in my local machine for my computer. So I don't have to worry about that too much unless I need to go and reach out and grab the active key, right? But the question that I have then is there a way of making it so it's so you can hold that key securely, and that way you can log in without having to type it in? Because the problem that I run into is I have fat thumbs, so like short fat thumbs. So whenever I'm typing on my keypad on my phone, I have a problem typing in that long password and not messing it up. So it takes a long time sometimes for me to get in just because of that. And I understand the value of the security aspect of it, but from a usability standpoint, I wonder if that's going to be something that a lot of other people won't get over.
Yeah, I have been thinking about it. Would if we make the private keys as a QR code, would that help to scan the QR code and just type it in automatically?
You mean like you scan a QR code like that you have on a book, like I have a book or something, or on my wallet, and I scan it with my phone to log in?
Yeah, that's kind of the idea. You generate with your private key, you generate QR code, and that picture you just scan it, and it will type in your private key.
Well, that's a cool idea. I was thinking along the lines of maybe storing it and having like a 4 or 5 digit pin that encrypted it, that you only needed that to unlock it to use it or something. But that's a lot cooler, at least. And now I don't know how many people would use the QR code. I would use it just because I think it would be cool to try it, but I don't know how many people mainstream. What do you guys all think? Has anybody
Sounds like a
used
good
it?
idea to me. Yeah, I mean, I think the QR code scanning as a login instrument is a pretty clever idea. Sounds good.
Okay, we can. Yeah, I think we can include that. But as a PIN code, I think you can already use PIN code. It's already available in settings page. You can enable PIN code, and it kind of secures up in the front end security. So it gives you possibility to only use PIN code to access your application.
Well, yeah, I know that you said that the PIN code was in there, and I've looked in there at the PIN code, but I actually thought that the PIN code was just to make it so somebody couldn't even log into or couldn't even get onto the application to try to log in. I didn't know that it was connected to the so I can set up a PIN code and just type the PIN code to log in?
Yeah, you can. I mean, the PIN code is extra security where, I mean, if you already saved your private key on while you logged in, then you can enable PIN code, so it will already be secured from front end, but it's not. The PIN code is not used for the encryption in any way. It just secures the front end. It just secures the access to application.
Okay, so the private key could be taken in that way.
Well,
If
yeah.
it's a matter of once you're logged in, if you can generate a private key after you're logged in, then then the PIN code is a gateway to the private key.
Yeah. Well, if the PIN code, if someone tries for more than 4 times, PIN code just if it's incorrect more than 4 times, then it will clear all the data, so your private keys will be removed. So there is no danger in that. But again, someone taking your private key is a matter of how secure is your phone is. If your phone is rooted or jailbroken phone and you have some malware apps installed on your phone, then that's the matter of how your phone is secure.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, it's interesting because I was under the impression that that you can store it and that you could actually like potentially that it was like kind of that it was not used whenever I logged back in, because I didn't realize I could go in and set it up so I can log in more easily. Now, the only question is that, like you're talking about, is the security, and like the people here are talking about, is the security element of that. But I do think that QR codes would be kind of cool. I just wondered, what do you guys think as far as, do you think a lot of people would use them?
I mean, if it helps to quickly import the private keys, I guess, we can implement that, but it depends on how people use it, because in order to generate QR images, you have to use your private key to generate that image, so that you can use QR scanning every time you want to log in.
Well, from what I heard you guys saying was that the private key would be held locally, and that it would be basically unencrypted. Is there a way of having it held in an encrypted way and then just a PIN code that unlocks that, so you can then automatically log in and actually post?
Yeah, that's one possibility. We can, in a way, we can use PIN code to encrypt the private key. That's not the issue. The issue is when you're voting or when you're doing any action, replying or posting, then you need to enter the PIN code to unlock your private key. So that's kind of extra kind of computation in the app, which needs to decrypt your private key to submit.
Man, the QR code is an amazing idea. I just don't know, how does this work? I find myself thinking like, okay, am I going to put the QR code on my phone, like on the inside of where I hold my phone? The case of my phone, or is that where most people would put it? I would assume that might be the best place, but otherwise I don't know where else you would put it, like a temporary tattoo. The thing that would be a bother is if you put that thing on something and then you lose it and you're like, well, dang, now I can't log in.
If you check out the transfer page in the app, there is already a QR example where you can scan the QR code of the username. So it will be similar to that, where you, instead of scanning username, you just scan the private key.
Is this in settings?
No, in the side menu there is transfer page, where you open up and you see the QR code and you see some little camera next to the username field. I'll
have to log in here after the Hangout and check this out. I don't want to interrupt everything because I do have this sucker downloaded on my phone and I have been checking her out. And it's cool that you got this. I'm just curious how you're going to deal with a couple of these little things to make it easier for the everyday person, just because we're all nerds and we tend to sometimes tend to forget that.
You dropped off there, Fuzzy.
Yeah. And
somebody muted me. Am I having problems?
No, you're not having problems. You're a little bit low in your volume, but it's not anything major.
I need to turn up my mic. Is that what you guys are saying?
A little bit.
How about now?
That's better.
Okay. I do not know what I was talking about. That's okay. But somebody muted me. Good joke. So anyway, what were we on?
yeah, QR code in private keys importing. So I mean, it will be similar to the transfer page. Right now we have, if you're logged in the app, you can see transfer on the side menu where you can see example of how QR code works.
Has anybody been using this app lately? Has anybody checked it out?
Yeah, it's really nice. I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, I noticed that you're starting to get a lot more support in Good Karma.
Yeah, thanks to this podcast and some other hangouts, I'm trying to get in touch with users more often and talk about the features and what they want, what kind of features they would like to see, and what the issues they are having.
Wow. Dude, I think that's really fundamental.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you right now, I would love if Mumble were integrated in it, so get on that.
Fair enough. Yeah.
No, that's not fair enough at all. Not at all, Fadet. That's greedy. But anyway.
No, hardly. Dude, open source software is used by millions and millions of people. And once it's open source, it stays open source.
Yeah, and thank you, Good Karma, for open sourcing this, because, this is another good point that is brought up by this. You have written this all as an open source project. So the people who might have any concern can go out and look to see that you are, all the code that they're using is right there for somebody to see and audit and make sure that you're not being evil. So that's a very powerful thing to be able to utilize. And in addition to that, people can build onto it. So you've done this and not really expected anything in return, and just have posted updates and kept people updated on the various things that are going on. And you've reached out to the community and you're getting the support that you deserve. And that's just, to me, this is you are the perfect example of somebody who can come into the ecosystem and make themselves known and leverage what they're doing for the ecosystem to get out into the ecosystem and kind of market what they're doing to the people. And man, it's really a really cool thing that you've done, and I appreciate it, man. We support this little app, and I also support Plumble being integrated at any point in time in the future.
Yeah, thanks. I'm really glad a lot of in the last few weeks, a lot of developers reaching out, and they asking if they can fork the project and use in their own projects. That's really what it's all awesome. About. Yeah.
Man, Good Karma. I hope that hordes of good karma come at you. I hope that there's so much good karma that you don't know what to do with all of it. You'll probably build more stuff, won't you? Well, does anybody have any questions or comments for Good Karma regarding this?
Gosh, first of all, awesome. Thank you for coming on the show, Good Karma, because I didn't actually know your app existed until just now. I'm curious, actually, though. So, all right, there's an open source iOS app for Steam, and I did not know about this at all. So I'm curious if you've thought about other implementations of the code in your app? I mean, I'm going to look through it right now, but I'm really curious. What are the morphs that you see, if any?
Well, right now it's for iOS and Android platforms, and there is a plan for Windows phones, but not many users are Windows phone users. But there is, I mean, in future I will port it to the Windows phone users, and there is also plan in. I mean, yeah, the project is growing, and I have some great plans, and working on a short-term and long-term roadmap. So I can talk about this on conferences in Oslo or in SteamFest, more about details and where the project is going, and future revenue models, and how it can grow, and how it can help, and how it can sustain itself.
Can I ask you a technical question real quick?
Sure.
How are you dealing with the API?
Well, API is in a settings page, user can change their WebSocket, so it's kind of in a way decentralized. You can connect any WebSocket Steam node runs or connects to, and you can use it just about everywhere. So that WebSocket is used to broadcast the transactions, but every transaction is generated locally, and it just uses your private key to generate and create that transaction, what you call it, hex, and then it broadcasts to the network with the WebSocket.
Okay, so you're using completely the standard implementation. Is there any issue with latency?
Well, issue is when you are on mobile connection, probably there will be issue, but WebSocket itself is very fast, and yeah, and if you're using the default WebSocket, which is steemit.com WebSocket, they have quite good load balancing, so there is actually not connection latency, so it's very fast in a way, and only it depends on the user connection, how good their internet connection is. I heard some users were having issue with the connection when they are using the mobile data connection. In some cases it can be very slow, so but yeah, things are improving, and I'm trying to improve the connection issues and see if it helps the users.
That's great. Thanks for your work. And one more question, sorry. In terms of the API or interacting with Steam generally, are there any changes that could be made to improve your developer experience, or anything that you hate or love about, developing against Steam generally?
That's a great question.
Well, in general, when I find out about Steam and Steemit, it was so exciting that it was so easy to start working on it and building top of the Steam blockchain. So it gives you very easy access to all the data with JSON and with API. But one thing is that there is not much documentation about it, so you only have to look through the source code and find out about it. But right now we have a lot of posts about how each API works, and a lot of other developers working to document this. It's really, really fun.
Oh, that it is. I couldn't agree more. It is really, really fun.
Well, that's because you're at the edge of this technology, really. I mean, let's face it, there's some really good blockchain technologies out there, but Steam is one of the Porsches.
But
right?
we are still in the beta, I guess. So that's good achievements. Right now we have more than 90 tools and applications on top of it. It's increasing, so that's quite good.
Oh yeah, it's the developer ecosystem that has me convinced that Steam is going to pass $1 billion in market cap before February 2017, because there are a lot of apps being built on Steam right now. I mean, a lot. there's this Android app, this Android/iPhone app that Good Karma here wrote. I didn't even realize existed till just now. And I know there's even more projects like that too. So yeah, Steam has future.
Yeah, many more to come.
So I will ask you kind of a question that's, I guess it's connected to what you do, but it's also a little bit more along the lines of a theme that has been used for creating the Golos chain, which was that developers couldn't get paid quite well enough. Do you think that you are getting paid well enough, and do you think that it's something that is extremely difficult for you to provide updates, basic updates in English and things like that?
Well, I think it's we are still in early stages and beta, and well, app is still in early stage as well. So, but what I think is it should, as a developer, you should have kind of long-term roadmap for the project and how to have a revenue model so that it can sustain itself, not just build it and just leave it as it is, but to continue developing and improving and increasing the user base, but at the same time having the revenue model. So that's kind of what I'm working on, and what I plan to talk about in this SteamFest and Oslo conferences, and yeah, start to talk more and get some more people interested in it, and get at the same time get advice from the members and users, and yeah.
So it sounds like you kind of used Steam it as like a little bit of a mini Kickstarter, where you don't really go in with a whole lot of expectation on how much you're going to make, but you know that you are going to plan to build a profitable business model with or without the help. And then anything you get in the, from posting the updates and all that stuff and going around to promote it on Steam, it is, extra money that you can be thankful for.
Well, yeah. I mean, at the same time, in the beginning of the project, you want some community support and how this plays out, but at the same time, you want to have, you want to grow you want to grow yourself so that you can provide sustainable updates and keep developing and keep improving the app, not just getting stuck and not moving forward.
Well, thank you very much, Good Karma. Is there anything that you guys, like a feature request or anything specifically that you would like to mention to Good Karma?
Is the voting slider bar incorporated now in the apps?
There is no slide bar in the voting, but you can see in the settings page you can change your voting rate, so it just affects everywhere in the voting.
Okay. Good to know. I didn't see it yet.
Yeah, in the settings page you can change it to your voting rate, and it works everywhere on app. It gives same weight to the vote, and it works same as in down voting as well.
What would be cool, actually, now that you say that, would be to say, I generally vote 55 times a day. So I put 55 times in there, and it will it will vote at the amount that the percentage I need to maximize my voting power and the return from it, that would be kind of a cool little way of doing things. Because then, a lot of people, they can tell you, oh, well, I upvote 150 things probably every day, and, or a general idea. And then if it came up and it said, well, okay, well, then you should be voting everything at 65% across the board if you want to maximize the use of your voting power for that number of votes.
Is there anybody here that can put a URL in the chat window about all this mechanism of voting? Because I don't understand exactly how the percent. I know it changed not too long ago, but I don't really understand what percentage. I generally just put 75 to 100%, but I don't vote all that often. So I really need to understand this to get the maximum benefit.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know the algorithm, but I do know that if they haven't changed it, that 20 votes at 100% uh, is like the maximum that you can really start before you start losing enough that it doesn't really pay back to keep voting more.
I think it's 40 because
Is it
I'm
40
not sure.
now?
Yeah, I think it was 40, but yeah, latest hard work didn't change anything, so it was 40, I believe.
Well,
It's
I do know
basically a
like
matter.
the very early days it was 20, so okay, so they changed it.
So
Yeah, it's just like recharge rate. So if you use 40
Yeah.
a day, then over that same day period, it'll recharge the 40, so you won't actually see your vote power drop continuously that way.
yeah, it's actually
Yeah.
recharging the last 24 hours. There is a recharging rate, and yeah, 40 volt is for that.
It's kind of like, it's kind of balancing out the drain on your voting power. Like if you have like a power pack on your chest, it's like you're charging it at the same rate that you're getting rid of power.
Yeah, that's what I understand.
Yeah, I just try to make it visual because we have, a lot of people who listen to this who are new to Steam, so it's a good time to let people kind of visualize some of these concepts.
Yeah, I think we can add in the app some indicator. Right now it shows the voting power, and I think we can show the rate or how many votes they did per day.
Oh,
That's
that's
actually
amazing.
That's actually one thing I really like about the app Good Karma is that it has your voting power incorporated in there where you can see it. Because when I'm like on my desktop, I have to go over to Steam Stats to be able to see that.
Yeah. There are a lot of little things on the app that you can pick out and Good Karma, are you getting these ideas from the people that you talk to, kind of like what we're giving here?
Yeah, that's kind of from users, and at the same time how I want to use app. I mean, how I want to use Steemit, and as well as the user input. Yeah.
You're a friggin' all-star. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions, comments? And if not, go ahead and Karma, please let everybody know how to contact you.
Yeah, you can reach me in steemit.com as well with Good Karma hyphen in middle, and it's same handle in steemit.chat as well. So you can directly reach me out if you have issues or if you have feedback. Yeah, future request. Just reach me out.
Thank you much, man. And if anybody has any questions or comments to finish up with Good Karma, please feel free to talk to the app to connect to them. Well, you've got to ask for those features to be built in first.
Oh, I wouldn't wish that upon anybody in reality. Can you imagine
Like
if everyone just talked to the app and it went right to them?
No.
But there is a about page in the app where you can also find the contact, how you can reach me out and give a feedback or request feature.
Awesome. Well, thank you, man.
Good for you, Good Karma, for being very user-centric in your pulling of information from the user community that you're addressing in order to add features and stay connected with your users. That's very, very important.
Yeah, thanks for the hangout every week. It's also giving exposure, and I really enjoy being here. Thanks.
You're welcome. Well, I'll tell you one thing, and I will tell this is a good place to for the whales who are who've been around in BitShare's ecosystem for a long time and now are whales in Steem. And just to let all of them know, if you're listening to this, the people who are attending these hangouts, consider upvoting their content and their work because they're coming on here to be open and transparent with us. And if you have questions, feel free to join. Because I, as a mini whale, use this as a way of kind of trying to find people that I can help give coverage, that we can talk about we can use the power of all of you guys to create very good content that really can cover the interests of a lot of different people. And that's what you guys offer here. And what we can do with that is we can turn around and monetize it. And if the whales will support that, the people who come to these things, they're no joke, man. You guys come here every week because you're serious. It's because you're not playing around. So if whales want to invest their upvotes, this is a rich, fertile ground to do it. So I'm just going to say that. And then I'm going to move on real quick here to, it looks like virtual growth is next. Are you up for talking right now?
I'm here if he's not.
Well, he's definitely recording.
He got displaced from the hurricane.
Oh,
ouch.
Yeah. I don't know, man. From my experience, hurricanes, a lot of people will get ready and will just shutter up their windows, go in the garage, and drink beer. It always
That's how we
stunned
would handle
me.
blizzards in Buffalo. It's a good method.
I always personally thought that, if the roof flew off, the last thing I would be, or would want to be, would be drunk. But that's, it's another story altogether. But, so, yeah, sure, Psycho Chick. How do I say this? Psycho Chica?
Psycho Chica.
Psycho Chica. Okay. Well, that's why I keep mine to 2 syllables. It makes it easy. So you're going to join us today to talk about some things for, you and Virtual Growth are joining us today to talk a little bit about SteemPrentice and some of the stuff that's going on over there, right?
A little more on SteemPrentice. I won't go into it as much as I did last week on that, so I can just kind of leave it open to questions or things there. But one thing that we are kind of working on that side is Virtual Growth put together, the website is SteemLand.com, and it's, think of it like Second Life. It's actually built into YR Grid, and there's like micro Bitcoin transactions that take place under there. So on one side, we've got like a couple of poker tables set up that run on micro Bitcoin, but we've got more in the room where we're looking to kind of use it for, just like you were talking about earlier, how to get exposure as far as, the eSteem app and other sort of kind of major things that we want people to know about. So they're kind of like advertising billboards that are in there that we can actually load up posts that people can visually come in and browse. We can kind of have, it just kind of changes that the viewing of things. The other side of it is they actually will track per click, which we have a hard time viewing on Steemit itself, just with the way it's set up. So it kind of is a little nicer to kind of show that, traffic is actually getting to these things. And we're wanting to kind of use it also for visual tutorials and things like that. Like we were talking about kind of, like either the Bitcoin processes or, just kind of the visualizations when it comes to core things for non-crypto people to be able to understand. And even for like marketing, it's easier to kind of show which one of these 3 would you click on, and then you get into a discussion as to why while they're all side by side. So it's kind of the development over in the SteemLand area, just kind of social interaction, tutorials, and some games.
Okay. Well, first off, does anybody have anything that they would like to say? Because I'm just going to have to start saying that before I open my mouth, because I've got plenty of stuff to say. Okay, so this is under construction, right?
It is up and running. You can see the billboards and things like that in there now. At this point, it's just kind of a matter of what exactly to put in there. But there are some stuff, tutorials and things that are in place. The poker tables are up and running. I actually funded a 10-person, like $2 buy-in free roll for the first one in there. So that basically, whenever we can, get 5 to 10 people in there, we'll have a $20 poker tournament or, $20 prize pool poker tournament where there's no buy-in for those people because it's already been funded. And, it's just kind of something a little different. Another, again, way to kind of move it in. Yep, that's the one, SteemLand. I will say it.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
That's why, because I'm trying to find out how to get on here. Like, I'm very interested in this.
You can, in that link that I posted, you can kind of see a screenshot of one of the two as far as like the billboards in there. Let me grab the other one here. There we go. That's the one on kind of the poker side of it. You have to go to that YR-Grid website to get your actual account set up, and then you download the YR-Grid kind of program itself, and then you log in through that program. Again, it's very Second Life kind of feel as far as kind of how I got from it. You can fly around. But yeah, we're still kind of trying to get people used to it, because there's a little learning curve getting in there. One of my biggest ones was you go to log in the program versus the website, and it asks for a username. So I tried 50 different things to then realize when it asks you to sign up, it gives you a first and a second. So like mine was actually Psycho Space Chica. Just those little gotchas for everyone to kind of get over. So if anyone's interested, especially in the poker tournament, I do recommend at least kind of getting into YR-Grid ahead of time, just in case there's any kind of hiccups, so there's no stress, I'm missing it sort of thing.
Yeah, this is amazing. I'm going to just have to, I guess, dig into this to really tell you guys what I think, because I haven't downloaded YR-Grid or this SteemLand thing. So I guess the people need to download two things. And one is kind of a prereq to the other.
Well, SteemLand is kind of like the front-facing website for it. So the only actual download is YR-Grid, and then Virtual Growth kind of has his own little island that he has set up within there that's persistent. So once you're in YR-Grid, you just need to get to the island and you're good. There's nothing else to download.
Awesome. Well, I would gladly host some of this virtual Steam Fest in Mumble, man. This is we're gonna have to talk, because personally I'm wondering if there's a way of adding on BitShares Island to this, which is kind of a play on the history of the evolution of graphene technology and what's gotten us to here today. It would be kind of cool to have if it's a world like that, where like it's just a big server that you can kind of fly around in this world. If you could have a BitShares Island in addition, my God, this would be amazing.
I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, just while I was kind of roaming around, there are, again, like Second Life, you can go to the areas that you made and they're there, but then you can still have access to the other things that other people bought. I went to one where, you saw people selling, skins or outfits or stuff for Bitcoin. So I know it's doable where you can have multiple persistent worlds in there, or island.
Well, my Lord. I think we need to talk. I mean, I want to talk to you about it on here, but until there's a lot, there's a lot we can talk about that's not quite ironed out. But I think that there's a lot of room, because anybody who knows me and what we've been trying to do for a long time was we wanted to run a server for BitShares Island, like on a mine test, which is what it was called. And it's kind of like Minecraft, but it's free. But we ended up are you guys still working on it right now?
Sure.
Oh, I was not aware of this. Well, maybe you guys need to RSVP and talk about it, Mr. Tammer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to let Virtual Growth kind of talk about some of the underlying details, because I've just kind of been in there from the user side. Like I was never even in Second Life outside of seeing Dwight Schrute fly around in the office. But
well stated.
But as far as just like the potential, yeah, I mean, just kind of adding that extra layer of social and presentation, it's a little easier to kind of have things like, an eSteem billboard front and center. We can host things like a SteemPrentice social thing or tutorials in there. We were talking about just kind of the ability of the equivalent of being in a conference room where you have that overhead projector to show to everyone. If you can hook that in, I mean, there's so many things that you can kind of work on, you know, just again, the education side and presentation side in there.
God, it's so amazing. Like, this is the generation of people that I like to talk about. That you guys, all of us are creating a renaissance because we all think alike in this regard. Like, you guys are seeing the same exact stuff, because if you were to talk to Joey D, you would hear him telling me, or telling everybody, that we talked about this. He and I talked about this quite a bit. Like, how cool would it be to be able to have it where, like, you know, you have a place where everybody can go in and they can actually have, yeah, sure, they can be in mumble and they can be talking, but now, you know, I actually go into this building, I fly through the window maybe, or however, you know, because you're allowed, because it's a damn game. And I fly into the conference room window, and then I sit down, and everybody's like, hey, you know, you finally got here. You know, we're about to start the presentation for this person's white paper on this new cryptocurrency that they're building, or this new way they're going to use graphene technology, you know, and you could actually have these things kind of like live events that are decentralized. There's no barriers as far as geography, and you don't have people feeling like, oh, if I can't pay, you know, $2,500 out of my pocket at this point in my life, you know, I'm not going to be able to participate in something that's very important to everybody at this stage in Steem. You know, this is the way that we leverage this technology to bring each other together.
Well, here's kind of the other cool kicker that Virtual Growth and I have been talking about is, we've all seen, you know, like the Bitcoin and altcoin faucets out there of, you know, come and get this for free. So let's make it a little more useful, because we've put out so many guides and so many other things that nobody reads because they just want someone to show it to them. So instead, here's some tutorials that you kind of can use as a Bitcoin faucet to go and click and ideally read, to get them coming in and interacting and actually looking at some of the good introductory stuff that they should be looking at, just on the motivation side.
Yeah, it's one of those things where there's a generation of people who are familiar with now using these interfaces and these worlds that we can create that are, you know, sure, they're not real in the sense of, you know, you can touch it and feel it, but it's something that we can create, something that we think is valuable in a space that we occupy, that doesn't bind us to the rules of the world as we see it. You know,
remember
like
that conference, Fuzzy? Remember that conference a year or two ago that was taking place, and somebody put together a entire virtual environment? That was pretty cool, and I think it was pretty neat, and I think that's kind of the idea in action. I'd like to see that happen more often, but I suspect that we haven't seen that more often because it's probably pretty difficult to put together.
Well, it's expensive to do. Like, even the tools that I'm trying to build, which will be, you know, used for people to create guilds on their own, like in their own tokens, and pass them around. You know, so let's say the SteemPrentice group wants to hand out SteemPrentice tokens that go to the people who are the best mentors, you know, who get the most thank yous or upvotes in their steemit.chat or something. You know, you come up with your own different ways of rewarding tokens, and that stuff is extremely difficult. Like, it takes a long time to get this stuff done, you know, if you're going to do it right. I mean, building a whole a whole conference center and a virtual conference center and all that stuff, and having it run, you know, it costs money, it takes time.
Well, I mean, that's one of the upsides of kind of how it's set up right now. And it's, you know, the Steemit in general, it tends to be a lot more forward in that, you know, go and do something and show us, and then you kind of get a little more notice and ideally rewarded. You know, I think there's a lot more of that go-getter kind of mentality amongst the entire community.
Oh,
One other thing, one other quick thing that we're starting in SteemPrentice, because I've been trying to, I put out like a call for like an ambassador toolkit to be put together somewhere in the last week, and I've been working with them. It is a great daunting initiative. It is a daunting task, but I'm getting there.
Well, to the people who saw and read that post, they thought it was something simple. You just need a little bit of funding and everything's good. Then you'll just get a little bit of,
Well,
it's a lot of work though.
What I'm trying to do so it's a little bit more manageable. One, there's a group, Academy, that had been working on kind of a similar idea, but to specifically target charities out there to kind of educate them about what it is, how they can come in, talk about their cause, and put what they do on Steemit for a good cause. So I've been kind of trying to work with them and read up their materials. What I'm going to want to try and do is really focus first on that whole, what is crypto, not in the sense of what is it, but trying to kind of take down that it's scary and untrustworthy barrier. Because in reality, people know just as little about their own monetary system. People hear a dollar is a dollar, but it's no longer backed by gold. If you saw the exchange rates all the time, you'd see the volatility or, at least some of the fluctuation, but no one sees it. So they just trust it, but they don't realize what's going on. There's really not that much of an impediment between that and Bitcoin. It's just perception. So it's really just kind of, getting through that first. It's not something scary. It's really on par as far as fiat currency, and it's spendable. And that's really all people care about. So I want to really target that. I like the idea of like a 3 to 5 minute kind of brief video that is easily digestible by non-crypto people, kind of getting those presentations. And I'm kind of focusing first on being able to pitch it to college crowds, because I've got a handful of schools down here that I can approach myself, but I think it's easier to kind of target a group and build a package around that, and then it can kind of be filled out from there. I had to do something that was more targeted.
Well, and whenever you target a group, you get a group who's helping you. You get more perspectives on it too.
Exactly. I mean, there's going to be people that aren't going to come on board, and that's fine. So I'd rather target the ones that are more likely. And most developers do the same thing. When I was in school, MATLAB and Mathematica even Microsoft Office does it. Here's the student edition, so you get used to using it. And then after you graduate, that's the tool you know. I mean, if you learn in GIMP, you probably aren't going to switch to Photoshop.
True. I mean, though I will say that at times knowing Photoshop has really helped me when I needed to download something and GIMP was all that was available.
True. I mean, you get the concepts between the two, but you learn where things are in that single tool.
And you only do it if you're forced.
Exactly. Right? And it's the same thing. If you're, exposed to Mathematica, you're probably not going to switch over to a similar tool that has the same functions, but just a different format or, placement. So why not hook people on crypto? Here's your BitPay card. That's, I think most college kids are more accepting. They don't have that kind of, scared outlook that a lot of the older generation does. At least that's my thought.
I think that you're used to, I honestly do. I believe that if the more that economies have gone online and the more that communities have gone online, people in this generation are capable of switching communities so quickly and being part of something else, so easily. So it's like there's this almost sense, there's this confidence that we have so much information at our fingertips now, and such an easy way of accessing one another, that we are much more resilient and capable. I mean, just looking at, what did Hillary Clinton say not too long ago, that they're losing the information war, and that the reason why they said that was because, this is an age where a 12-year-old with a computer can, if he's good, can take over a million computers and have them all do what he wants them to do. So you know, this is an age where we can, you know, there's great potential dangers, but there's also a lot of resilience that is given to the people, the system, because of the empowerment of those people using these new technologies, like what you guys are doing here. SteemLand is amazing. Just from what I'm seeing from a screenshot, I'm looking forward to seeing more. And is there any link to download it here?
There should be in that, let's see, in the poker one. I know we've got it somewhere. I'll track it down here. But
the only one I'm seeing is for the here, what is it, the YR grid?
That's really the only download is YR grid. I'm just trying to find the original links from that. There's kind of a few that went out. But yeah, if anyone's interested in the free roll, we're still trying to get that put together. Just, you know, it's going to come down to just setting a day, time, and say people be here. It's too hard to kind of get community consensus on a day.
I think that just to add a little bit to what you were talking about, Fuzzy, is that one of the first steps that if you want a mass adoption for cryptocurrencies, the first step is to stop calling it cryptocurrencies and start calling them digital currencies.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that.
I agree with that as well. If you even look at the search statistics in regards to cryptocurrency versus digital currencies are like 10 to 1.
Of course, if you look, I don't know if you know about anything about BlockPay, but for example, we talked about this since I think 1 month ago with Fuzzy, and for example, I told Fuzzy that in our company we never use cryptocurrencies. So if you go to blockpay.ch, you can see our website, you can follow us in social media, but you will never see anything that talks about cryptocurrencies or blockchain, because the normal consumer doesn't care about it. As you were talking about, the normal consumer doesn't know that what is a dollar, you know, and it's not backed up by gold anymore. People don't understand the current monetary system. They haven't, and they will not continue. They will not understand it. So why doing it on the blockchain industry? You know, why? I mean, consumers don't really need to understand what's behind all these technical and complicated things. They just want to know that they can transfer money, they can pay money, they can pay their groceries and the things with digital currencies, and that's it. You know, so marketing in this aspect to earn this mass adoption worldwide is extremely critical and extremely important. You know.
Oh, definitely. I didn't realize that it was the search statistics were 10 to 1. That's a lot more than I thought it was. Now, the one question that comes across to me, though, is the downside potentially is by calling it currency is maybe legal consequences, but I don't know that even matters what you call it as so much as the nature of the thing in the eyes of the law. So, I mean, what do you guys think about that?
Well, on the eyes of the law, you know, I'm very critical on the legal side in our company. So I'm managing all the legal part normally. And as you know, for example, if you see the US has different jurisdictions and policies on, for example, Bitcoin or digital currencies in every state, you know. And if you look deep into it, there's different states that they don't consider Bitcoin as a currency, so they don't want to adopt it. But if you see, for example, right now, I'm going to send you the link right now. I forget her name. It's Lagarde, yeah, the French woman. I forgot. I forgot. I completely forgot. But she just said that she's going to start implementing new policies for using digital currencies in Europe. You know, so there was a conference in Munich, I think it was 8 months ago. It was on in a bank called Commerzbank here in Munich, and they were talking about this, and there was a lot of bankers, that they don't know anything about blockchain. They say they do, but they don't understand anything about it. And they were saying, like, for example, that the current system is completely stable and that Germany has been running on that system all the time and it will continue. Well, good luck with that. Have you seen Deutsche Bank right now? Deutsche Bank is out of liquidity. Their credits are going completely down. They don't have good traders. It's going very bad, and for sure there's going to be a bailout, because if Deutsche Bank goes down, it's going to be 100 times worse than Lehman Brothers in 2008. So
could be a bail-in.
Yes.
Well, that's what they're saying it's going to be. And that's the laws that have been passed pretty much everywhere.
Well, what I'm seeing right now here, if you really think about Germany, they had first the Greek crisis. Then they had the refugee crisis that Angela Merkel let more than 1,000 refugees coming in. Taxes went up, interest rates went up. So the bank actually is just making money on deposits. People are being skeptical about it, and they're panicking a little bit. And what I personally think is that Germany, with all the problems that they have right now, it's going to be pretty hard to make a bailout, but they should do it, because if not, a US bank will come, for example, a JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs, and they're going to buy the bank. And then it's going to be completely chaotic, because as you know, Brexit, England just left the European Union, and if this happens, it's going to be a complete mess on the European Union. So the euro is going to fluctuate, it's going to go down, and it's going to be a big problem. But now, with these new policies on digital currencies, I think it will be great, because we're companies that are completely decentralized from governments, financial institutions, banks, So that's the message we should give to the people, to the normal consumer, and actually talk to them, give them a good marketing, so that they understand that we are the future. All these companies that are coming and are rising in Europe, US, we're going to be the future, and that's important, that people start understanding and we start educating, and not just the blockchain people, but the normal consumer, because in here, in this mumble, everybody understands about digital currencies. About a lot of things, a lot of things. You can do whatever you want. But what about your brother, or what about your friends? Do they know about it? So
maybe my brother and my friends aren't a good example, but yeah, I get your point.
Yeah. So for example, if I go out tonight and I talk to my friends, they're going to tell me, like, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but what's behind it? So I never say what's behind it, because they will not understand it. Even for some people that are very good in it, it was pretty hard and it took time to understand it. So I think this is a message that I think we all should carry to all our friends and people, and it's just to explain things in a very simple way, and being patient, and educating all these consumers. Like, for example, we were right now in Bits and Pretzels here in Munich. There was Richard Branson there, and he was talking about the same thing, that we should educate about digital currencies. A lot of people should educate their friends, their families, and everything. And because the financial system is broken, it has always been broken, and we're going to continue seeing more financial declines on banks and economies, So I think we're the future of that, and we have to start putting more emphasis and more focus on educating the people,
Well, that's a very good point. What's interesting about this discussion is that I'm giving a presentation at my local community group tonight, and I prepared it with the idea of cryptocurrency and introduction to the blockchain, but I'm going to revise that before I create these handouts and change that to digital currency, just for the reasons that you've outlined earlier.
Yes, I'm just going to give you a nice example. For example, as you know, BlockPay is operating right now. I just got the message right now. We're operating right now in 31 countries, yeah? So that's a lot. And as you know, we have heads of ambassadors and we have normal ambassadors. So we have probably, I think, 90 ambassadors worldwide. And, we thought outside the box in here, and we said, look, we are in Mexico. Mexico, for example, doesn't know anything about digital currencies. People don't understand anything about it, but you know what? Now they're actually understanding, because the head of ambassadors is now giving very simple presentations and educating all the people in universities, young people. So this is the people we should target, very young people.
And this is actually kind of exactly what Psycho Chico was saying. Really, because that's where they're trying to go as well. And I have to kind of leave it at this point, because we're at about 2 hours and 36 minutes in, which is we're around the same point that we should be at. But you do make a very good point, Rodrigo, because this is something that they're obviously noticing, that people here understand. But there's also the level of, like, here in this hangout, I try to talk about cryptocurrency, and I don't mind using it as digital currencies, or calling it that either. But we're kind of leaning a little bit more obviously towards the people who are a little bit more interested in cryptocurrency and understanding blockchain technology beyond Bitcoin, right? But on a larger scale, you're 100% right in my perception of the whole thing. And I didn't realize what Data said until he said it, though, about 10 to 1 on, searching for it. That's huge. And I will also say that as far as ease of use and psychological tendency to be more willing to use a digital currency is if it's pegged to the dollar, or pegged to something else that is of value, at least somewhat closely. And I think the Steam-backed dollar is a very good option right now, and that BitShares offers a lot of market-pegged assets like that as well that are great options. So we're starting to see some of those ones that people are going to be able to use cryptocurrency and still the same fiat naming conventions that they are habituated toward for their entire lives, right?
Yes, exactly.
Thank you very much for speaking up, and thank you guys, Virtual Growth and Psycho Chica. Is there anything that you would like to say to people as far as if they would like to reach out to you, if they would like to help you guys in any way, shape, or form? If there's anything that you could use some whale up votes on specifically, anything that you feel is important to close on today?
The biggest thing, off the top of my head, I can't really call for whale up. Just keep an eye out for the free templates that people are going to put out, because what I'm having people do is, like, Rubelite Faye just put one out of kind of her template set up for posting. I think it's a lot easier for newbies if they're handed something that looks nice that says insert image here. So I'm going to be having various people in the group kind of putting out their own templates under the SteemPrentice tag just for free use for everybody. Those are the main ones I'd kind of keep an eye on, or like Virtual Growth's kind of spotlight that he puts out frequently. Outside of that, we're just in SteemPrentice. If anyone needs help with getting set up with YR Grid, feel free to ping me. I can hop in voice chat and we'll get you through the gotchas, so no one has to deal with that.
Sounds good. Well, that is that's hashtag SteemPrentice in steemit.chat, correct?
Yep, perfect.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining up, and of course, if you have anything that you'd like to bring up next week, feel free to go ahead and do so. We are now on Jules' project. Pro for Never, are you here?
I sure am.
What's up, man?
I'm doing really well.
Interested to hear what you guys are up to.
Yeah, we've had a really, really busy couple of weeks since the launch of Heroes. Mostly we've been focusing on, of course, making sure that all of the user content is fleshed out, making sure that there's no balance issues or bugs. But we have finally sort of passed that point and are moving on to some more interesting, more custom features and new content for the game. So that's been a lot of what we've been working on this last week. For those who have not been in previous weeks, we are the Jewels Project. We did an ICO about 3 weeks ago. It ended, and it went very well. We raised much more than our initial 200 Bitcoin ask. We were around 330. Since that point, we have been listed on a number of different exchanges. Most notably, this last week, we did get listed on Bittrex. And
Nice.
so that's been going really well. We're really happy to see that have happened.
Bittrex is a very reputable exchange.
Yes, yeah, and we were very happy to see that was added. We submitted all of our documentation a couple weeks ago, so it's very nice to see them having gone ahead and added us. Outside of that, the Heroes project is our first use case for Jewels. So that has been live for about 2 weeks now and has been growing very steadily. There's a number of people already playing the game. We've been gearing up with various methods of advertisement to sort of build our audience and grow it from the ground up so that we have that really core MMO player who can sort of act as a foundation. As new people join, they can sort of show them how the game works and tour them around and teach them how everything works. And as part of that, we've then been working on making the game a little bit more user-friendly and expanding on the existing systems. So the biggest thing that we have been working on in the last week is what's essentially a web interface. So we can design new menus as a web interface. It connects directly to the game server, and we can design the interface once and use it everywhere. So for example, this last week we did a mass composition system, which basically all the items that you find when you're hunting, you might have 10 or 20 or 100 different items of varying low qualities. This system allows you to quickly just select them and just combine them into one handy generic upgrade material. So that's proved very, very popular with our players, and we are working on expanding it. But the nice thing with that is in the future, we can add that to our website, or we could do a mobile app where you can manage your character's interface, or you could list auctions. Exactly. And that's what's so useful about designing it in this way, because we do have that bidirectional communication between the web server, the web client, and the actual game server that's controlling all of the character data. So that is now in place and already working. I'll just go ahead and post a quick GIF in chat there of the system. So that is in action. It's already live. We are working on making it a little bit more pretty and maybe a little bit more responsive for users as we move forward, and of course adding new features. The biggest thing that we are looking to do with that system in the next week is we're working on a number of different PvP tournaments in the game, which we can use from a marketing perspective. So we're looking to introduce some real world cash prizes. In this case, we are going to be rewarding Jewels currency, about $25 worth as a weekly prize to the number one winner of those PvP events. And the nice thing about that is not only does it help secure the existing audience that we've built, because they have these exciting new tournaments, they have ways to sort of be introduced to the Jewels ecosystem, even if they're not a paying player, but it also allows us to do a whole new slew of advertisement campaigns where we can bring in those players who are very competitive and want to prove that they are the best and very, very skilled at the PvP side of the game.
I'm very
and
hopped up on Mountain Dew.
Exactly. They're all hopped up on Mountain Dew, and they really want those prizes. And even outside of the actual cash value of them, whether they decide to use them in game or sell them on an exchange, it adds a lot of legitimacy to the project, where as a winner of that tournament, you have a lot of bragging rights, you have a lot of recognition inside the game, and that has proved very popular with players in the past, and we're looking forward to bring that sort of to more mainstream market with the upcoming tournaments.
Well, you know, with a lot of the stuff that are in normal games today, the reward is limited to being a virtual item of some sort, right? Or tokens that are used to purchase that virtual item. But those tokens can't then be like sold to other people for real money, you know? So
exactly.
It's very interesting to see how the blockchain provides an economic layer for this stuff.
Exactly. And that is another use of that web interface that we mentioned earlier, where we will be able to do things like player auction houses, where they can say, hey, I don't necessarily want to play this game anymore. I'm going to take the gear that I've earned over the last month, 6 months, 12 months, however long they've been playing. They can sell it to someone else who's joining for jewels, and they can cash out. They could sell it on an exchange, or they could move it to a different game that adopts jewels, whether that's our project or another one that does integrate the jewels system to it. That's an option that we would allow them, which usually is not allowed in an MMO especially. And it does, of course, provide another layer of safety for players where they don't have to worry about scams. We essentially act as a middleman in those trades.
Yeah, I'm looking at the interface right now on this little GIF. I'll be honest with you, man. I wish I had 50 hours a week to just like play a video game like this, because these things are so addicting. And then having a cryptocurrency on top of it would just make it crack cocaine to me. I've never tried
Exactly.
crack cocaine, for the record, but it's what I assume it would be.
One can assume, yes.
Yes. I mean, that's why I say that video games are one of the gateway drugs to cryptocurrency, right? I mean, let's face it.
They could be, definitely. And it's worthy there.
Yes,
I have a question. I've been meaning to ask this question for a while. I'm wondering how you see PeerPlays, and how you look at maybe using some of their code for a back end down the line, or if you compete or what.
Sorry, in terms of managing various match tracking and rewarding for tournaments?
Yeah, whatever.
Well, for the most part, we are looking to handle the tournament side and the competitive PvP side with our own, as that is already integrated into our game server. Now, that being said, we would definitely be open to various partnerships and integrations of other coins, other tokens in the future. That would be definitely something that we would be interested in talking with them about, but it's not something that we've done a large amount of research or sort of think tanking those possibilities up to this point.
Just to go over like the point that Chris just made, I think the best way for us to go about this is, unless we go into it, already with like a partnership form and an idea of what's going to happen, the best way for us to look at it, since it's not exactly high on our priority list, is to see when PeerPlays becomes more established, what's being built on top of PeerPlays, what type of games are being built on top of it. And then once we have an idea of that, we can then look to see, okay, we might want to integrate one of these games into our game, sort of like as like a mini game that can be played with inside of our game, which is like a concept that we already have that's currently in the works.
Thank you.
It's so funny that you bring that up, because I actually remember thinking about this specific thing, like being able to go into a tent in an RPG or something, where it's like a gaming tent, where you throw daggers, or you have the various games of chance that are always in those epic fantasy RPGs, and that you would have different games like that would be running off of a blockchain. So is that what you're talking about, essentially?
Yeah, exactly. So games like this that are built on decentralized platforms could then be interfaced, by our game itself, and effectively it would work pretty much like how you described it. Like a player would go to a specific map or something like that, and that would open like a specialized interface, and behind the scenes it's really just using a bunch of blockchain technology, and that's pretty much how it would work. So
I mean, you could even have it where you have like a little mechanical bird that knows about the blockchain, and it's a little block explorer, and it knows whenever it alerts you, oh, look at this transaction ID. This little gnome tried to screw you out of $5. I mean, you could have like little joking kind of
your own personal Twitter. Oh, you're killing me, Fossey.
Oh, sure.
So I did see that Intelliguy had a question in chat there. If you want to ask that now, go right ahead and we'd be happy to answer it. We have a few more updates to go over, but we may as well take a couple questions before we move on to the next topic.
Okay, my question is, I downloaded Conquer Heroes, and when I went to run it, a splash screen came up and it had Chinese characters all over it, which scared me because I can't read Chinese. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I know maybe this was a Chinese-based game before or something like that. And the very next thing it started to do was try to download patch updates. And right away I got scared and I closed the client, knowing that the game was probably just legitimately updating itself. But I was kind of saddened to see that the launcher wasn't customized for the Jules project, and that it might have said Jules project, and it was more of a customized splash, and that I could feel more comfortable about it.
Okay, so we have actually updated the launcher already. That was actually one of the patches that it was trying to download for you, was to make sure that there was... Exactly. So we were aware of that issue, and we have actually corrected it to make sure that it is properly loading all of the updated news for the specific Conquer Heroes server, all of the Jules update, and making sure that it's not showing anything in Chinese. Now, that being said, I am a little bit surprised that it was actually showing up as Chinese characters for you, because I believe that should have already been fixed in our initial client release. We will Oh, looks like I got kicked from chat for a second. Sorry, so it does look as though the client has already been corrected for that, just looking at it on my side. We will be repacking another client exe to make sure that there is no confusion, and there will be less initial patches required, because of course during the first week or two of the server there was an almost daily update of making sure text got fixed or item stats got corrected so they were more balanced. And now that we have sort of passed by that initial launch phase, we will definitely be packing up a new client to make sure that you'll just be able to log in right away without any patches.
Okay, perfect. That's fantastic. I think what I did was I installed the program or something, and then I looked in the actual program folder, and I saw play.exe or something, and I double-clicked that, and that's when I got it.
Okay, now off the top of your head, do you remember if it was a Windows error that was giving you those Chinese messages, or was it the actual interface?
It was like a splash screen that came up and showed me graphics and stuff like that, and it had Chinese characters at the very top of the splash, and then it was all in English. Everything else was all in English, saying downloading patch from patch server.
Okay, well, I'll definitely take a look in there to make sure that there's nothing like that remaining. But just looking at the client that I have here, the most recent one we've uploaded, I'm not seeing any Chinese characters. So I would say that should definitely be fixed at this point.
Fantastic.
Well, thanks for letting him know about it. That's kind of what this is.
Yeah, it's definitely appreciated.
Yeah. It's very valuable whenever you get just a little bit of input.
Definitely, and oftentimes it is issues that we can't really even recreate on our own machines, where it's a different version of Windows, or it's a different third-party software that may be installed that's causing problems.
Yeah, that's a good question that comes to mind from here is, well, but actually, never mind. Actually, I'm not going to ask that, because you have some updates that you'd like to get into, and I would like to let you do that. So let's go ahead and move on with the important updates that you have, okay?
Yeah, so the next major thing we wanted to talk about is that we do have a large batch of new cosmetic content arriving in the game very shortly. We would expect that to be launched sometime the middle of next week. Basically, what that's going to include is multiple dozen new weapon skins, garments to cover your armor, various weapon effects, various glows, different horse types, pretty much any cosmetic that could be in the game. We have dozens and dozens of new ones that are going to be arriving. And we did want to bring that up for a couple reasons, not only because, hey, new content is always nice and players like it, but also because it is leading us into the concept of limited release items. So I would say about 75% of those new items are going to be standard cosmetics. There's not going to be a limit on how many can be distributed. But the other 25%, what we're looking to do with them is to have limited release, where only 25 or only 100 of them can be purchased. And with the goal being, as we move forward, both in the context of Heroes and moving forward towards our own custom game, we'll be able to convert those to decentralized assets so that they can be traded on the Jules Marketplace or auction house. And one of the reasons we're so excited about that is, of course, there is always the type of player who really wants to complete a collection where those items have very high value to them because there is only 25 or 100 or 200 of them available, and that's all that will ever be available. But from a sort of side aspect is it actually does introduce non-players as sort of market forces inside the game, because we do have the crypto community who is heavily involved in the Jules project, who has invested in it, who is trading coins and sort of speculating on the future of it. What is interesting, though, is that they may see those cards coming out and say, okay, well, there's only 25 of them, and I think it looks really cool and is going to be in high demand. So it actually sort of creates a mini sub-game for them where they want to be collecting and trading those cards. Similar idea to sort of like a Spells of Genesis type thing, but in this case with actual in-game usable items such as weapons and garments and horses.
I'm not gonna lie, Pro Forever. This makes me want to ask: is there a way that we can get like a limited edition Beyond Bitcoin sword? Everybody in here?
That may be possible.
I would just like to be able to have one for everybody on who joins Beyond Bitcoin.
No,
we
but
might
that's
be
a
able to
great
make you a
idea.
nice shield.
A great idea to have, demonstration. I mean, we can play it and brag about it
Exactly.
a week before you launch it.
Exactly, and that would be very, very interesting to do. Now, obviously, we don't have Beyond Bitcoin 1 created yet, but we do have the process streamlined quite heavily now from the past couple years of experience that we have creating assets for our Apex server. So creating new weapons, new garments, new effects, that sort of thing is relatively streamlined at this point. So creating something like that would be relatively trivial. It's just making sure that we have the art ready.
I love the way you say weapons.
Talk dirty to me, baby.
That's for after the show.
How many rounds are we talking
I don't know,
about?
man. You're talking dirty to a bunch of crypto geeks right now when you're talking about games.
So moving on from that, we will just mention that we do still have our Provably Fair gambling games in progress. What we're looking to do with those is in the coming weeks, we are actually looking to start doing a vlog series on both the development status of these various sub-projects, such as the gambling games, such as the new tournament systems, the new decentralized assets or limited edition items, but also allowing us to discuss more abstract concepts, why we might decide to make a decision the way that we do in terms of MMOs and gaming, and also, of course, crypto, and how we can sort of see that advancing. So we're looking to do that on a weekly basis so that we can provide a little bit more insight into those. Unfortunately, with development, you oftentimes, if you don't have a video or a screenshot or a GIF of it in action, it's not overly interesting to people. So being able to discuss the sort of back-end systems and the decision-making behind it, we're hoping will allow us to provide a higher level of insight into those updates, and also make sure that people aren't sort of just starving for the next screenshot to be posted. We can provide something before that's necessarily finished.
Do you have art, game art? So
we have quite a bit already. The issue that we're having at the moment, or I shouldn't say issue, but the bottleneck at the moment is making sure that the artists that we have brought on board, we've received a number of applications and we've sent them some test projects to work on where they're designing a couple interface elements or a couple game objects and making sure that they can sort of match the existing art style that we've already created and have ready in terms of environment art and things like the base design for the slot machines, for example. So that's the sort of status of that development right now. And we've also finished in terms of the actual statistics, the odds and the payout rates and that sort of thing. We have finished that, and we've brought on a statistician to sort of look over our math and make sure we've not made any mistakes. So at this point, what we're doing is making sure that we have all of the art in a cohesive style that goes together, and then we can sort of put that into our existing template that we've built for the game project themselves.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, I really wish I had the time to go out and just compete against all of you and, of course, have my own fuzzy blade. I would have to make my own fuzzy blade. That would be my first quest. But then to go up against all of you guys, maybe we should have a game night or something. God, there's just so much work.
It definitely can be, yes.
I was just wondering, when it comes to promotion of your game, when it is launched, How about taking a little crew and go to Norway and in the Easter time when you're supposed to be on holiday with your family? Fuck the family. Go go to the gathering in Hamar in Norway. There are 5,000 gamers there gathered every Easter, and it's the perfect place to launch a game. And you can have a.
Well, they already launched it, but I mean, I guess this isn't like the final release, is it?
Well, we have about 3 different projects. The Heroes server is already online and is sort of a evolving project. We're continuing to do about bi-weekly updates right now to it to make sure that all of the content is balanced and there's new features being added. The nice thing about that, though, is with us having designed a lot of the systems as essentially web interfaces, those can very easily be recycled and refactored and brought into our custom game project, the Project Rebirth. So the official sort of start of development of Rebirth is Q1 2017, so about 2-3 months from now. But in the meantime, we're actually able to sort of use this as a sandbox to develop new features, develop new content, and then transfer over 80% of it with minimal rewrites to that new system. And then, of course, the other project being the Provably Fair gambling games, which will be available completely separate from our Conquer Heroes project, but it will also be available inside it for people who are playing the game who want to gamble their jewels or other in-game currencies.
But here's the thing. So jewels are going to be a currency across all of these games, correct?
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
So you can then create ambassadors to essentially do exactly what Furstikin's saying, but I'm talking about like ambassadors in different locations. Heck, Furstikin, I don't know where you're located, but I know it's that you're a Viking. So that might give me an idea of where to look.
I'm located in South America, man. But I'm
a Viking
from
in
Norway.
South America. How did you get shipwrecked over there? We won't get into that.
I swim.
But I mean, like, he could be an ambassador for South America then, or
Definitely.
other people could and could actually, like, you guys could pay out in jewels potentially, correct?
That is very easily done. Yes, either jewels or limited edition cosmetics or various options.
Yeah, I'm always up for some good marketing deals and get good products out to the masses. I love that stuff. I'm running for witness on Steam for the same reason.
Yeah, we'll definitely be looking into that as we move forward. I would expect to see a lot of the sort of marketing campaigns along that line to take effect as the Jules gambling games go live, because at that point we do have the sort of cross promotion between, if you don't want to play an MMO or you don't have the time, in your case, Fuzzy, you can still play the games, you can experience them, you can have a use for your jewels outside of them, and you can go ahead and do that. Or if you don't care about gambling at all, you can go ahead and play the MMO and still have a use for your jewels, or you can do both. And that's when things will really start to become more interesting on that side, as far as I'm concerned, because you do have that sort of merger of different types of players or different types of tech enthusiasts, whether it's gaming, crypto, or both, and we get to introduce them to each other.
Well, obviously everybody knows that I'll talk. Does anybody have any questions or comments for them? I'm looking here at this GIF, this entire interview, and I'm just this part of the hangout, and it's just kind of putting me in a trance. I want to play, dude. So I have plenty I can talk about, but does anybody have anything that they would like to bring up? Has everybody seen this GIF?
There's a lot of things I want to bring up, but not so many things I want to bring down.
Well, first again, did you see this this GIF?
I'm loading them up as we speak here. Let's see. Wow, this looks like one of the games that I used to write walkthroughs for in the old times.
That's cool.
Kind of reminds me of the Lineage games that were out, or Lineage 2.
Yeah,
I like
around
it.
that age. Yeah, these were the times when it looked good enough that you could, feel like you were in a world that was, but it was still cartoony and not quite too real. And it just like has that. These are the comfortable kinds of games.
I like the graphics behind the swords that seems to be enchanted, that have this lightnings going
the
around
various
them.
quality.
Yeah.
The +1 and +2 swords up there.
Yeah, so it shows like they put more than just graphics into it. It's a nice touch there.
So on that note, I think that covers most of the questions. So I'm going to pass things over to Roy here. He wanted to talk about what we're planning with upcoming video logs and the everything in terms of the development and game mechanics that we're looking at creating.
Sure.
Yeah, so we're looking to move to sort of a system where over the series of, the upcoming months, we're going to be releasing a series of vlogs, basically, where we'll talk about anything between something like, game concepts, mechanics, game development, but it's not necessarily going to be all like, game centric. Some of the topics might be, okay, how are we using, the blockchain technology? What problems have we ran into? How did we solve those problems? How did we change our approach? That sort of thing. For the most part, you can probably expect the videos to be anywhere, I'd say, between like 1 and 10 minutes. They're not going to exactly have a fixed release schedule. So, for example, one week you might get 3 videos, and another week you might get maybe 1 video or no videos. So, there's not exactly going to be like a fixed timeline on how this vlog system works. But we are going to start doing something every week, sort of similar to Beyond Bitcoin. So on that note, this is not necessarily our like last meeting on here, but more so when we do try to like RSVP a spot on Beyond Bitcoin, it'll probably be for more major and cohesive updates rather than rather short updates as we gave today. So what essentially we'll be doing is we'll be holding a weekly meeting, probably on the weekends, and we'll be using the Discord platform for this. It'll pretty much be the exact same as how the Beyond Bitcoin meetings work, where Chris and I usually give our updates, and because we're doing this on Discord, which is a similar platform to Mumble, of course, we encourage users to simply hop on the Discord web interface if you don't have the client downloaded, and you can chime in and ask us questions like you guys were doing today. And part of the reason I mentioned this before as to like why we used or why we're going with Discord is it's a simplistic platform that's easy for people to adopt because there's no downloading that's involved. There's registering is as simple as Slack, in the sense that you just like put in a username, you put in an email, and you're good to go, and you can already start using the platform. And it's something that gamers are very familiar with, and we want our audience for these type of our daily updates to not be necessarily limited to those in the crypto communities, because we feel like these updates will be very valuable to those on the gamer side of things. Now, at the same time, it's like, those who are investors on the crypto side of things, we're not ruling them out of this because those updates will obviously be just as interesting to them. So that's something we're going to look to start doing probably for next week. So we're going to be releasing the details on that pretty soon as to like how you can join us, how you can join our Discord, get set up, and our schedule for when we're going to be talking each week.
And so, where can people find that?
Right. So we'll both be tweeting the information for it, like how to get set up, and posting it on our thread. But to just like summarize what I just said into like a really short version, we're gonna have unscheduled vlog updates, and those can be pretty much about anything that like we're gonna talk about. There might be guest speakers that we bring on for that. So like, for example, when I want to do a vlog about guilds, I might hit Fuzzy up and be like, hey, do you want to be a guest speaker on on this vlog? And he might be like, yeah, sure, I want to talk about guilds. I love talking about guilds.
Yeah.
So There's that, and then there is scheduled weekly updates that'll happen that are all done through voice that people can interact with the same way they do on the Beyond Bitcoin show. And yeah, that's our plan going forward on the communication aspect of our project.
Well, that sounds awesome. It sounds like you guys are getting to the point where this is going to be what you're talking about is kind of like the focus groups that you were planning on running, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's like sort of what I was saying is we want to move our Jewel centric and our Conquer Heroes and Rebirth content directly to these meetings. And when we have, let's say, a major update, like we have an expansion plan for Heroes in the near future, so when that expansion is released and we have a ton to talk about, like what was released in that expansion, some teaser pictures, that sort of thing, that's another instance of when we may look to RSVP for a Beyond Bitcoin meeting, because we feel like that's a more potent topic that deserves further coverage, if you will.
Well, I might be biased here, but I would prefer the next time that you come on to be the announcement of the Beyond Bitcoin sword that everybody at this hangout was going to get. So I'm just going to say
for all
that
you
right
know,
now.
that might be in the
Put it
expansion. It
out.
might be a
go
key
out on
part
that
of the
table.
expansion.
Who knows? I'm just saying. I mean, you take it and do with it what you please, but I just have to put it out there into the universe to see if it gives it back. Well, seriously, all joking aside, the fuzzy blade, I don't know. We could go with the fuzzy blade, but I'd prefer it to be just, kind of like a Vorpal sword that cuts through anything.
Don't forget to put in a first stick and hammer in there while you're at it.
First stick and hammer. And some fuzzy balls. I really don't know where these. I started out calling them fuzz balls, and everybody calls them fuzzy balls now. So there's nothing I can do, because of course the insinuation from that is worse than fuzz balls. And I tried to be professional. And it had to like evolve into that.
I want some fuzzy balls on a chain.
On your chain with your hammer.
Yeah, so Chris, if you have anything to add, or if anyone has any questions, I believe that's about it for our update today.
I think that pretty much covers the new features from this week.
Well, I'm glad that you came on and gave it to us. I'm here looking in the shop because I made my account. So I'm actually able to go in and see what people were buying and how much 100 jewels are going for $5 through PayPal. So I'm assuming that jewels are going to be able to establish a pretty good price if there's a lot of people buying through PayPal, which I assume since most people are buying the tokens through PayPal and services like that for other games, that this is going to be a really a good way of doing it. And I'm glad that you guys came around and that we could be part of the archiving of the Jewels project. So thank you guys for your time, and you're always welcome to come back, even if you don't RSVP and you just want to ask questions about other projects or work with other people here.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely be around in the future, and thank you for having us again.
But still don't come back until the sword's done, and after
I'll start work on that right away.
Yeah, everything I said after that will go into play. Have a good one, guys.
You too.
La 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 la.